is.
And yet there's a part of me that is wondering, just because we now kind of feel like it's going to take a few days to get the final results, certainly in Pennsylvania, because we start to prepare for that, I wouldn't be shocked if we have the result late Tuesday night, early Wednesday morning.
That would be awesome.
And, with the early voting turnout, I mean, you've got like over 77 million that have already voted, across the country. So you would think that would allow us to find out the results sooner than later.
You would think, you would hope.
Mm-hmm.
And we are going to be covering it every step of the way with our incredible resources and our major big-time national analysts as well. Tell you what, though, let's get this party started with traffic and weather together.
Some light rain early, breaks of sun this afternoon, highs in the upper 80s, near 90. Tomorrow, partly cloudy skies, highs in the mid to upper 70s. Overnight lows tomorrow in the low 50s. Wednesday, sunshine and some clouds, highs in the upper 70s. 74 degrees in Leon Valley, 74 at Lackland Air Force Base, and 73 right here in Stone Oak. WOAI News Time, 5:12.
San Antonio's first news on this election eve 2024. The day is almost here. Charity McCurdy, Mr. T, Tim Merriman, Charlie Parker with Those Were the Days in the next hour. I'm Chris Duell. EJ Pacheco flying the Millennium Falcon solo. He's working on getting that YouTube stream up and running. Got a bunch of people in there. We'll try to get that video to you shortly. And Charity, I can't believe we're one day away. I remember 320 days until the election, 254 days until the election. Remember when we got to double digits? Oh my God, it's only 99 days until the election, and here we are at 1.
Yeah, and I imagine for most of us, we don't feel any calmer. I think the anxiety is still there. It's like, please just rip off the Band-Aid. Let me know. I'm sick of waiting. And I hope we find out tomorrow night, Wednesday morning, but you just kind of have to pack your patience with polls showing everything neck and neck, especially in those key battleground states. I mean, there's just no telling which way this is going to go.
No, and after we lost an hour or gained an hour of sleep yesterday, you would think that this would make me feel better, but I'm anxious about it. I've got almost like Christmas Eve. You get those jitters when you were a kid, get downstairs on Christmas morning. It's kind of what I feel like right now.
Well, and watching NFL football yesterday, and yes, the Cowboys do suck. Dak Prescott. By the way, did you see the little sideline lip reading of Dak Prescott?
Yes, thank you for that, by the way.
We suck. And yes, you do, Dak Prescott. And now he's out of the lineup with a hamstring, as Charity just reported. But what I'm going to love when we can just get to this election, the political ads are just driving me crazy. Oh, my God.
Mm-hmm.
Political ads on television. In particular, I'm trying to escape from all the vitriol and watch a Dallas Cowboys football game. And I'm in enough stress and trauma watching the Cowboys suck. And then I got to watch all these political ads during the football game.
And you can't even drive home without driving past a political sign, strapped to a fence or, staked in a grassy median somewhere. I mean, I'm kind of ready to check out at this point, but we've waited so long, and it comes down to whether the outcome is good and one that both sides will accept.
That's the key, though, that both sides will accept, because I have a feeling neither side's going to accept it. Will the, peaceful transfer of power, will it start? Will it go through like it normally does? Or are we going to have this fight all the way up until Inauguration Day in January?
I think once a winner is called, the other side, whichever side it is, I think then the court battles begin. And so I give that a few weeks, I believe. And again, we're speculating here. Maybe it'll be cut and dried and clear. We'll find out. Lots more coming up. We'll get you caught up on headlines, traffic, weather, and we have a question for you on this election eve. That's all coming your way. WOAI News Time, 5:15.
Hello, 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 hello. All right. Hey, good morning, Sam. Good morning, Frankie, and hopefully everybody else that was on the other stream that wasn't working will come over to this one.
Yeah,
I know it's confusing.
There's a bunch of people in there, and I'm trying to let them know.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. There you go. Yes, Travis, we're back. Morning, Trevin.
All right. Welcome in, everybody.
Morning, Tommy. Travis, good morning. Trevin, good morning. Frankie, good morning. Sam, good morning.
Yeah,
Chris,
sorry
good
about
morning.
good morning, Mr. T. Sorry about the technical difficulties.
Yeah. Oh.
Thank you, Sika Pollen.
Morning, Sika. Morning, Jim and things. Yeah, studios of the future.
Studios of the future, everybody. Tommy Miller, good morning. Trevin, Tracy Bogert, Sika Pollen.
Tracy. That's funny.
Tracy Bogert in the Witness Protection Program.
Sam, I'm pretty sure he knows that, but thank you.
What was Sam?
Stand by.
Okay. As we often do, we have a question for you this morning. We'll get to that in just a moment. But first, Charity McCurdy, what stories are you following?
Donald Trump and Kamala Harris will make their last pitch to voters in swing states today. Federal election monitors from the Justice Department have been denied access into Texas polling places, and legendary music producer Quincy Jones has died at the age of 91. We'll have more right now, traffic and weather.
Looks like it's going to cool off. Just how cool. We welcome in News 4 San Antonio meteorologist Jeanette Kaye. Good morning, Jeanette. Thanks, Jeanette. 73 degrees here in Stone Oak. WOAI News Times, 520.
San Antonio's first news. It is almost here. Tomorrow is election day. That makes today election eve. And we have a question for you this morning. We're pretty much going to take your pulse.
Yeah.
How do you feel on this election eve? How confident are you that your candidate will win? How concerned are you that there might be some bad actors or some bad goings on in this election, such as some kind of cheating, some kind of problems? Charity, how would people tell us this information?
The free iHeartRadio app, you launch it, search 1200 WOAI, look for that red circle at the top right corner of your screen. That's the talkback feature. Hit it, 30 seconds to sound off.
And just wonder how many people are nervous about the reaction of the people after the final, I guess, ballots are counted and we actually do have a winner. I got to be careful what I say. And we actually do have a winner. I mean, is there concern?
Yeah. Well, and we've heard from listeners for weeks now about concerns about violence.
Mm-hmm.
Those concerns, as it turns out, are on both sides. Republicans believe that if the Democrats lose, they are going to protest and perhaps commit violence. Democrats believe that if the Republicans lose, that Republican operatives are going to protest and commit violence. I think, Charity, a lot of America is on edge on this election eve.
Yeah, and Tim compared it to the night before Christmas. I'm happy and excited the night before Christmas.
That's true.
I'm not happy, or I would say excited. I'm just nervous. I'm a bundle of nerves. I want to just see if we get the results, and I just hope cooler heads prevail. If your candidate doesn't win, go on about your daily life and be with your loved ones and commiserate. But let's keep our anger, our tempers in check. And it's probably going to be a good idea to stay off of social media this week, maybe next week too.
Yeah. Now, can you remember an election in our lifetimes that you've had this feeling like we don't know exactly what's going to happen tomorrow or Wednesday or the day after, or the day after, or the day after?
Not like this, and not with the concern about violence.
Yeah.
I mean, even 4 years ago, Biden versus Trump, Biden kind of led in the polls going in, although a lot of people still believe Trump would win. There's a lot of people who still believe Trump did win that election, but it was, now you add in what happened on January 6th, and you wonder if Trump is not declared the winner officially when the ballots are counted. You just wonder if there might be a bigger reaction. And again, flip it the other way.
Yeah.
If Kamala Harris doesn't win, are there bad actors on the Democrat side that are going to commit violence as well? So, Charity, to answer Tim's question, I don't remember a feeling like this before an election.
I don't remember it feeling this way. It's like if you're on one side or the other, I don't know someone who's saying, it's so hard to make a decision this election because I love both of these candidates.
I love them both.
Yeah, I have a hard time finding those people too, Charity.
So it's like you either love one and hate the other, it seems. Again, I hope that we learn from past events, and those who are thinking about acting out in some violent manner will look back at as far back as January 6th of 2021 and realize you're not going to get away with it. This doesn't end well for you and your loved ones. So I hope people just accept the results and find a way to move forward. And, again, hang out with those who supported your same candidate and talk it out, group therapy, whatever it takes. But we will get through this.
All right. We want to hear from you. How are you feeling going into this election? We'll play your talkbacks on the air. We'll react to them as well. We've got lots coming at you all morning long, including the passing of a music legend. We'll get into that also this morning as well. Right now, your Fox Business Report, WOAI News Time, 526. Yeah, we'll assume we are.
Hello. Okay.
Bob, Tim, Sikapolin, Trevin, Tracy Bogart, Travis Rooster, Kemper, Tommy, M1A1. Good morning. Welcome in, everybody.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. I hope everybody had a great weekend.
And by the way, not only happy election eve, happy and a joyous Bill Schoening birthday.
Happy birthday, Bill Schoening.
Bill Schoening's birthday. And it's Sean's birthday. Happy birthday, Sean.
Sean, happy birthday.
Not Sean Elliott, but some dude named Sean on Ken's 5. Happy birthday, Sean. Happy Renly.
Renly. Okay, that's
Interesting
a different name. Yeah.
I'll bet you Renly will be the only Renly in all of her classes.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if her parents were big Footloose fans. Because you remember Ren was that guy's name, and since it was a girl, Renly.
Renly, could be. Happy birthday,
Harper and Daxton.
Daxton.
Wow.
Daxton now wants to change his name because it has Dak in it.
He'd rather be Harper.
Yeah. Happy birthday, Jerry.
What up, Jerry?
Jerry, number 48.
Number
at
48, Jerry.
some high school.
Adriel.
Adriel apparently likes cake. Happy birthday, Adriel.
Conchas.
Happy birthday, Delaney.
Wow. Nobody does, like normal names.
Yeah, what happened to
anymore?
names like Susan and Sally? Happy birthday,
Yeah,
Derek.
those are gone. Derek, standing in Times Square.
Happy
Isaac?
birthday, Isaac.
Number 80, looks like, right?
Saucedo football. What is that a high school? Saucedo High School?
I don't, maybe that's his last name.
I'm
I don't know.
Oh, you know what? Could be.
Yeah.
He was wearing a sash
Yes.
that said Saucedo.
Can you
and
say
football.
sash? Is that sash?
Is that a sash?
Is that appropriate? Is that,
I-
politically correct
I don't
nowadays?
know.
Because it's hard to say what's politically correct and not.
Ah. I always feel when someone looks at me and makes
Yeah, I know,
eye
you
contact.
gotta wave.
We got a big window here, and when somebody looks at me, I feel compelled to wave. Otherwise, they're going to think I'm a jerk. Like,
And,
oh.
and Chris is saying big window. We're in a fish bowl.
Yeah, we're in a fishbowl.
We are in a fish bowl. I feel like I should swim around a little bit,
So what are we doing at 40? We are.
Election is tomorrow. Neither candidate slowing down. They were all over the place all weekend. I've got audio, by the way.
Oh, good.
Let's go with Donald freaking Trump. Hang on, guys. According to a report I heard on my way in this morning, both candidates are, in total, all candidates have spent $1 billion in the past week on advertising.
Wow.
That's why you're seeing so much. $1 billion a week.
And
$1
I
billion.
did notice on the Cowboys game,
Oh, yeah.
his ads were like 3-1
Yes.
versus Kamala.
Yes.
And I was thinking to myself, Kamala, you're trying to get dudes. And
Yeah, you
granted,
should be 3-1 against him.
Yeah.
Yeah. But hey, I'd just be glad when they're over, man. I'm tired of those ads.
All ads are
Or
just.
Christian Carranzas or
Yeah.
Carranza, man. I've seen so many of those ads. So be honest, Chris, how much of the game did you watch yesterday?
I had it on for the whole game.
Okay.
But in the other room, I had Red Zone on. I'm in a fantasy football
Yeah.
league, so it's kind of like
Red Zone is real good for fantasy football.
Red Zone in gen, especially
Yeah.
now that the Cowboys are done.
Yeah,
I'll probably go Red Zone all the time now. Red Zone is amazing,
it is.
but it's so addictive.
Yeah.
You don't want to get up and
Because you'll miss
it
something.
doesn't stop. Yeah.
You'll miss
So
something.
you can, but the beauty is I can also have it on
On your
when I
phone,
go
yeah.
to the bathroom.
You can watch it.
I have it on my phone. That's a little too much information. I
little
know.
Just a little bit.
It's a moderate death look. I don't know what that was. Just when I
Who knows?
Chris just put up curtains. Thank you.
All right, here comes Charity McCurdy. Well, we got a minute still. Hang on.
Neanderthals, everybody, they're my people.
Yes, they are.
I am 0.5% Neanderthal, and I want to thank Ken's 5 for representing the Neanderthal nation. And Geico commercials trigger me. I think all of us with Neanderthal in our blood and DNA should file a class action lawsuit against Geico.
Actually, I think Off the Wall was better than Thriller. Trevin, you got me on that one. All right, here we go. Here comes Charity.
.532 is our time. San Antonio's first news. Good Monday morning. I'm Charity McCurdy. Among our top stories, just one day left until Election Day and more activity in the Gulf with hurricane season still underway. We'll have details. First, traffic and weather together every 10 minutes in mornings. Your weather forecast for this Monday: light rain this morning, windy, scattered thunderstorms this afternoon, a high near 90. Thunderstorms tonight, a low of 62. Right now, 76 degrees. Well, both candidates for the presidency talked about Election Day this past weekend, but differed in their opinions on voter integrity. Here's Fox's Gernal Scott.
Both Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump hit several battleground states over the weekend. The former president in Pennsylvania Sunday voiced his complaint about how we vote.
We should have one-day voting and paper ballots.
Vice President Harris, speaking in Michigan, called that a tactic to suppress the vote.
The systems that are in place for this election in 2024 have integrity. They are good systems.
The vice president says she has voted and her mail-in ballot is en route to California. Former President Trump says he will vote in Florida on Election Day. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
And Kamala Harris made an appearance on Saturday Night Live with the actress who's been portraying her on SNL, Maya Rudolph, in the cold open.
It is nice to see you, Kamala. It is nice to see you, Kamala. And I'm just here to remind you, you got this. Because you can do something your opponent cannot do. You can open doors.
And Harris is referring to former President Trump's attempt to enter a garbage truck in Wisconsin earlier this week. Meanwhile, Trump hit the campaign trail in Pennsylvania, where he made a highly scrutinized joke in reference to the glass protecting him from a potential attack.
To get me, somebody would have to shoot through the fake news. And I don't mind that so much.
Trump holds on to a slight edge in North Carolina, while Harris leads in Michigan, and both nominees are tied in Pennsylvania, according to the latest Fox News polls. And Election Day is one day away, but there's still a lot of work to do. Here's Beth Myers.
At polling places across San Antonio, judges are starting to set up their equipment for tomorrow's big day. Elections coordinator Jackie Callanan says they want to get everything tested now so workers aren't rushed tomorrow.
Our goal is to reduce the stress on Tuesday morning because we're seeing lines before the polls open.
Today's mood at the election headquarters is a mix of excitement and anxiety. Callanan expects that there will be long lines tomorrow on Election Day. There will be just over 300 sites citywide. I'm Beth Myers, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
And several school districts in the San Antonio area are canceling classes on Election Day. Campuses are often used as polling locations, allowing many people not associated with the school to be on campus during class time. To be on the safe side, district officials decided to give students tomorrow off. Classes on Election Day are canceled in the school districts of Northside, Northeast, Judson, East Central, and Southwest, as well as IDEA public schools. Polling places will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. tomorrow. And hurricane season isn't over yet. The National Hurricane Center says potential tropical cyclone 18 in the Western Caribbean should strengthen into Tropical Storm Rafael today. Forecasters expect it to become a Category 1 hurricane as it enters the eastern Gulf of Mexico on Wednesday. Drier air and strong wind shear are expected to weaken it back to a tropical storm as it heads into the Gulf. Coastal areas from Texas to the Florida Panhandle should keep an eye out for developments. The Texas Supreme Court has heard arguments over 2 immigration detention centers and whether they have been properly licensed to care for children. LP Phillips has details.
The Dilley and the Carnes detention centers are in South Texas, opened by the Obama administration in 2014. Initially set up to detain immigrants in the country illegally, a lawsuit is challenging whether they were licensed to hold children. The state set up a system that is now under challenge, even though one of the centers is closed and the other doesn't have kids. Not the point, says attorney Amy Warr of the Grassroots Leadership Group, which is challenging the rules. She says those centers could come back, and those who are let out could be brought back.
People paroled under that statute are not unequivocally released. All it is a reprieve from detention. It's not a release.
The Supreme Court is expected to rule by summer.
It is 5:37 now with breaking crime news from around the country. Here's Nancy Grace. Traffic and weather together in a minute. But first, a check of your money in the world of business. We say good morning to Courtney Donahoe live at the Bloomberg News Desk. Thanks, Courtney. Remember, your trusted source for timely and in-depth election coverage is WOAI. Count on us to deliver the latest updates on Decision 2024. I'm Charity McCurdy. Here's traffic and weather.
San Antonio's First News, our full team coverage of this 2024 election rolls on this election eve. She's Charity McCurdy. He's Mr. T, Tim Merriman. I'm Chris Duell. EJ Pacheco doing all the heavy lifting today, flying the Millennium Falcon. Yes, he did get our YouTube broadcast up and running. If you want to watch the show, go to YouTube, look for 1200 WOAI. There's also a live real-time chat that you can participate in if you so choose. And Charity, you mentioned the number, 77 million. There are so far going into today, 77 million ballots cast. Before we talk about that, though, the candidates over the weekend, obviously, they were all over the place. Let's listen to Donald Trump from the weekend.
To get me, somebody would have to shoot through the fake news. And I don't mind that so much.
All right. That was some people raised their eyebrows over that comment from Donald Trump.
More of the former president being the entertainer and comedian that he is, even if it brings controversy. But, you hear chuckles from the crowd. His supporters find it entertaining. And, he would, if he was probably asked about it, a follow-up question, why did you say that? He would just say, no one can take a joke. I was just kidding. And then we'd move on to the next thing, because this is not the first controversial thing Trump has done, and it won't be the last.
No, that's for sure. That's for sure. And Chris, you were mentioning watching football yesterday and all the political ads.
Mhm.
I heard on my way in this morning that all the candidates, we're talking every race in the country, spent $1 billion last week on advertising. That's why we see so many ads right now.
$1 billion.
Yes.
Man, I guess that's good for the economy.
Very.
Certainly good for networks, television networks, radio networks. And yeah, I mean, we are inundated by these ads. And as much as people are on edge and there's angst about this upcoming election tomorrow, Charity, that is the good news.
Yeah.
That is the silver lining. These political ads will come to an end.
They will not be missed. Again, it's great advertising dollars for television and radio, but you're just inundated. It's nonstop. And it's not just for the presidential candidates, it's Senate races. And I can't wait to see the political signs come down as well.
What do they have? 10 days, I believe, is what they have.
Supposedly.
I think that's too long.
Well, my pet peeve,
It should be the
when I
day
see
after.
one up 30 days, 45 days after an election, seriously, public flogging, if it's a local Bexar County race, public flogging at the Tower of the Americas.
Ooh, I like
we
it.
put up a flogging pole, and
Ooh.
then the candidate and the campaign manager publicly flogged and live stream it for those of us who can't get down there to witness and cheer on the flogging.
And they can raise some money for charity by
Yes.
selling people, a chance to flog them.
Yes.
I love it.
And you're not talking about me.
Oh,
Well, no.
Sorry,
but
Charity.
We'd be willing to provide you with those funds that were raised. They're such, and I get it during the political season. I know you got to put up your ads, and if you're a candidate or if that's your cause, you want those signs up. But when it's over, get those signs down.
Amen.
It's not that tough. Whoever put them up, go take them down.
Or maybe, they could hire people who are not pleased with the results of the election, and they can go out and just rip up all these
Ooh,
signs,
hey,
as
like
a
therapy.
public courtesy. Exactly.
Yeah.
See, that's
Ooh,
an
I like
outside
that.
the box
Charity-
idea.
Charity's thinking there.
I like it. All right. Lots more coming up. We are already hearing from you. We asked you this morning the talkback question. How do you feel on election eve? How do you feel about your candidate? How do you feel about the integrity of this election? How do you feel about the prospect of violence? Mr. T will have some interesting information coming up on states that have already asked the National Guard to be in place. We'll talk about that and a whole lot more coming up. WOAI News Time, 546.
Hello.
Let's just assume.
Hello. All right.
He is on the phone, his phone. So he's.
Once again.
Carol, welcome in.
Good morning, Carol.
Carol, Tommy, Trevin, Tracy Bogart, Kemper,
Travis.
Sickapolin, M1A1, Steve DeRocco, the original Rock.
The Rock said?
Rock was there early. Actually, he was on the other feed.
That's what I thought. Yeah. What day is he on?
Good question. Brock, if you're out there, what day are you on?
That's smart, Frankie. What day are you on?
Well, technically, this would be the beginning of day number 1, since the Cowboys drove me to drink yesterday. I was going to try not to drink in November, but the Cowboys drove me to drink.
Yeah.
Ending on November 18th.
Mike
November
D.
18th.
What up?
Mike D, what is up? Good morning.
Yeah, Rooster, once again, Andrew is not here, so he's not switching the cameras back and forth, so you're stuck with chopped liver all morning.
Yeah, Andrew is expected back tomorrow.
Yeah.
You will get your Charity McCurdy fix tomorrow and for the next several days. So he is aware of no flashback?
Yes, I told him. Yes. I told him. I should have taken it off the rundown. My bad. And we're already late, so. And usual out. 57.
So, Trevin, you read something lewd into what the former president was doing with the microphone? I thought he was just adjusting the microphone. Kind of a Rorschach test, I think, of sorts for what you saw.
Yeah.
Jacob C. Hernandez, good morning.
Good
Jim
morning,
and Things,
Jacob.
good morning. Jim and Things, the talkback question. Basically, how do you feel on this election eve?
Are you
How do you
confident?
feel about your candidate? Are you confident?
How do you feel about what's going to happen afterwards?
Yes.
Yes, we did, Connie. That sucks. Quincy Jones dead.
Yeah. Very sad.
91, I believe, right?
91, correct.
Yeah.
Is he still married to Peggy Lipton of the Mod Squad? Is she
think so.
still his wife? We'll have to check that.
I think so.
If so, that speaks volumes for both of them. Both of them, especially him.
Yeah, I mean, in
Big,
Hollywood, that's tough, man.
Those relationships don't tend to last. Look at that.
We could get some rain from that, man.
Yeah.
I got a lot of rain Saturday. I mean, not a lot. Some light rain all
Yeah.
freaking day. All day. Now, Peggy Lipton died in 2019, according to Sika.
Wow, I didn't know that. Thank you for that.
I love that show,
And I think
man.
Link has also died, right?
Clarence
Williams
Thomas.
III. So
Yeah,
is
Clarence Williams.
The third member of the Mod Squad
You know,
still
that's a
alive?
good
I do not
question.
know.
Is he still alive? I used to love that show when I was a kid, man.
Yeah, I loved the Mod Squad. Me too.
Big fan. Big fan. Did not like the movie, though.
I
The
don't even
remake
remember
of
the
it,
movie.
it was horrible. I watched it with my daughter saying, you know, this was a cool show. And we watched it, I went, yeah, that sucked. It was Claire Danes as Peggy
Michael
Lipton.
Cole. Let's see if Michael Cole
Is
is,
he still alive?
84 years old, according
Wow.
to that guy's 84 years old.
Wow.
Michael Cole from the Mod Squad is 84 years old.
Wow.
My God.
Wow.
When did Clarence Williams die? 2021.
Yeah, it
relatively
was not
recently.
too long ago.
June 4th, 2021. May 11th, 2019 for Peggy Lipton.
Damn. So there's only Mod.
I had totally forgotten.
There's only Mod. The squad is gone.
Sitka Pollen.
Yeah.
And their daughter, Rashida Jones.
Yes.
A
She's
pretty
a pretty good actress.
Pretty good actress.
Yeah.
And she is a student of Joseph Campbell, the
Oh, well, there you go.
mythologist. There's a cool documentary called Finding Joe, which is all about the work of Joseph Campbell, and Rashida Jones talks about how it affected her life and career. Speaking of daughters, I saw Daddy-O over the weekend.
Yeah. How was it?
Outstanding, with Sean Penn and the daughter of Melanie Griffith and who's the Miami Vice guy?
Don Johnson.
Don Johnson.
Yeah.
What is her name? Dakota
Stand by.
Johnson? What's her
Dakota. Yeah.
Yeah.
Stand by.
Just ahead of headlines, traffic, and weather. But first, just after headlines and traffic and weather, we will hear from you, your talkbacks. Let's get to it. Charity, what stories are you following?
Many school districts will be closed on Election Day tomorrow as polls open at 7 a.m. The U.S. Secret Service is taking steps to enhance security ahead of tomorrow's election. And Bastrop County's Hudson Fire is growing at a rapid rate. We'll have the latest right now, traffic and weather.
Some rain early, breaks of sunshine this afternoon, highs in the mid to upper 80s. Tomorrow, partly cloudy skies, highs in the mid 70s. Overnight lows tomorrow in the low 50s. Wednesday, sun and some clouds, highs in the upper 70s. It is 74 degrees at the Pearl, 74 in Alamo Ranch, and 73 right here in Stone Oak. WOAI News Time, 5:53.
San Antonio's First News. We are your Election Central headquarters. Full team coverage of this 2024 election, which is only a day away on this election eve. Coming up at 6:10, we'll talk about a stunning new poll out of Iowa, which has a result that so far was not expected. We'll talk about that, whether or not it will come to fruition in tomorrow's vote. But we're asking you on the Talkback feature of the free iHeartRadio app on this election eve, how do you feel? How do you feel about the election? Are you confident your candidate will win? Are you concerned that there might be some illegalities somehow in this vote? And are you concerned that the losing side might go violent? Charity, how do they get us that information?
The absolutely free iHeartRadio app. You launch it, search 1200 WOAI. Look for that red circle at the top right corner of your screen. Once you hit it, it's like leaving a voicemail, 30 seconds.
Yeah, and you'll sound something like this.
Good morning, San Antonio First News. Love you guys. You guys provide a great insight every morning as I drive to work. I think everybody needs to remember this. We're all on the same plane, and whomever wins, please don't crash the plane. Thanks. Have a great day. Bye.
Wow.
Great message.
That is great.
Great message. Yeah. Thank you for the kind words at the outset of that message. And the point he makes, Charity, we're on the same plane. For this country to work at its finest and its most efficient and to get things done for people across the board, we need to come to some kind of an accord.
Yeah.
And even if we disagree, just find a way to make it work.
And that's the hard part. It's easier said than done. But I think it's going to take some time to digest this, especially once we get the final result. And if it's one people don't like, it's going to take some time to process. And you just hope that everyone takes a deep breath and and collectively exhale. There you go. And just repeat, I mean, we're going to get through it. We're going to get through it.
Well, Chris, you mentioned it last week. It's only 4 more years. I mean, think about that. If you don't get it this way, it's going to change in 4 years, and 4 years will fly by.
Everything goes in cycles in this country politically.
All right, here's another one.
Good morning on this election eve. My dad was a first assistant to the U.S. Attorney's Office when I was a child under the Ford-Nixon era. So I remember when Ford was running, watching the returns with bated breath, knowing my dad would lose his appointed position. He did, but life went on and got even better. So I guess I learned at a young age not to get too overly stressed about elections. Have a great day and hang in there.
Wow. Another great message. That's our good friend Kemper.
Yeah.
Kemper's in the live feed right now. Don't get overly stressed. Charity, good Good advice.
Yes. And if it's not the outcome you want, this too shall pass. I mean, we will get through it. It's going to be okay. That's my mantra. I keep repeating that.
I like that. I'm just going to start chanting that. We're going to
Yes.
be okay.
Yeah.
We're going to be okay.
Maybe we'll do that all day on Wednesday. Who knows? All right. Charity has everything you need to know, all the big stories on this election eve coming at you at the top of the hour. Then we'll talk about that very interesting Iowa poll that has a lot of people scratching their heads. WOAI News Time 5:57.
Hello. Okay.
Woo!
Tomorrow.
Robert's Cabin, welcome in. Alex, welcome
Alex,
in.
what's up?
I don't understand the question, Alex.
Flashback,
Alex.
why we didn't do it.
Oh, a flashback.
You won't hear it all week.
Yeah,
just so you know.
We blew it out for the week, Alex, because we're just maximizing election coverage. Every segment we do is somehow election related. So it will be back next week, unless
maybe
we still don't know who the president is next week. This is Nolan Ryan.
Which I'm glad Andrew's not here because Andrew says, Nolan Ryan was overrated.
Yeah. Hot take.
Hot take.
Andrew Hot Take Zimmel. Andrew,
Yeah.
if you're listening, that could be your sports radio name.
Yeah,
Andrew Hot Take Zimmel.
I agree.
Unless Joe Reinegel's already taken.
He's probably already taken it. Already.
Look at Trevin. Nolan Ryan, the all-time leader in walks. Well, you know what, Trevin? Babe Ruth was the strikeout king as well. He went for it. And Babe Ruth is not known for being the strikeout king, nor is Nolan Ryan known for being the all-time leader in walks. And oh, by the way, how many years would you say Nolan Ryan played? 20,
Oh,
25?
God, yeah, 20 something.
Something. If you play that long, yes, you will probably have more walks, more strikeouts, because you've been there for so long.
And this is the final Iowa poll before the election.
Okay.
Six o'clock is our time. San Antonio's first news. Good Monday morning. I'm Charity McCurdy. Among our top stories, it is Election Day Eve and the passing of a music titan. We'll have details first, traffic and weather together every 10 minutes in mornings. Your weather forecast for this Monday: light rain this morning, windy, scattered thunderstorms this afternoon, a high near 90. Thunderstorms tonight, a low of 62. Right now, 76 degrees. With Election Day tomorrow, both the Trump and Harris campaigns continue to hold events. Former President Trump was in North Carolina, where he said if he's reelected, the U.S. is in for a rosy future.
This election is a choice between whether we will have 4 more years of incompetence and failure or whether we will begin the 4 greatest years in the history of our country.
Vice President Kamala Harris visited Michigan State University and made a promise to supporters.
I pledge to always put country above party and self and to be a president for all Americans.
And it is the final day to blitz the battleground states for both presidential candidates and their campaigns. Here's Fox's Jared Halpern with more.
Vice President Harris ends her campaign in a state that could be key to victory, Pennsylvania. Her campaign has announced 3 stops there today in Allentown, Pittsburgh, and Philadelphia. Former President Trump is also in Pennsylvania today with events in Reading and Pittsburgh. He'll start the day in Raleigh, North Carolina, and end his campaign in the same city he's wrapped up his 2 previous runs for the White House, Grand Rapids, Michigan. Jared Halpern, Fox News.
State election officials say early voting in Texas is down this year from 2020's numbers. Early voting ended Friday, and by Thursday, more than 8 million Texans had cast early ballots. That's about 40% of the state's nearly 19 million registered voters. Analysts say it looks like 1 million more Republicans than Democrats voted early in Texas this year. And election judges in San Antonio are starting to set up their equipment for tomorrow's big day.
The techs will be all ready if they have to go out, if there's any glitches or anything like that.
Bexar County Elections Coordinator Jackie Callanan says poll workers are anxious and excited. She expects that there will be long lines on Election Day, just like early voting. There will be just over 300 sites open tomorrow morning citywide. Federal election monitors from the Justice Department won't be allowed into Texas polling places. The Justice Department had announced a plan to send monitors to 8 counties on Election Day to make sure federal voting rights laws were being followed. Texas Secretary of State Jane Nelson told the federal agency on Friday that the Texas Election Code does not authorize federal election monitors to be inside polling places. Well, a wildfire burning in Bastrop County has prompted the evacuations of dozens and has burned hundreds of acres. Eric Lycum reports.
That's the sound of the Hudson Fire in Bastrop County, moving towards the north. Carrie Hines with Texas A&M Forestry Service tells KXAN the fire was about 20% contained as of early this morning. The area is not heavily populated, but about 3 dozen homes were evacuated with residents and pets sheltering in Smithville. Meanwhile, Hines says firefighters are optimistic about changing conditions.
Thankfully, the forecasts do show that our wind gusts are going to be decreasing and our humidities are coming up overnight. We also expect humidities to be higher just in general.
Governor Abbott, meantime, has deployed air tankers, fire engines, and around 90 additional firefighters. Eric Lankum, News Radio 1200, WOAI.
The Bexar County Medical Examiner is working to determine a man's cause of death in police custody over the weekend. San Antonio police responded around 11 a.m. Saturday to a reported disturbance at an apartment complex on Bandera Road. They reportedly found a man trying to open front doors at the complex. They believed he was under the influence, so they took him into a city facility on North Frio Street for treatment. While there, the man became unresponsive. EMS responded and pronounced him dead. Grammy award-winning record producer Quincy Jones has passed away at the age of 91. Tammy Trujillo has more.
No word yet on the exact cause of death, but it's reported he died peacefully at his home in Bel Air, California on Sunday, surrounded by family. His career in the entertainment industry spanned over 60 years. In that time, he worked with artists including Frank Sinatra and Michael Jackson. Jones received a record 80 Grammy Award nominations, 28 of which he went on to win, and he later received the Grammy Legend Award in 1992. Jones was also nominated for an Academy Award for Best Original Score for his work on the 1967 film In Cold Blood. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
Hurricane season isn't over yet. The National Hurricane Center says potential tropical cyclone 18 in the Western Caribbean should strengthen into tropical storm Rafael today. Forecasters expect it to become a Category 1 hurricane as it enters the eastern Gulf of Mexico Wednesday. Drier air and strong wind shear are expected to weaken it back to a tropical storm as it heads into the Gulf. Coastal areas from Texas to the Florida Panhandle should keep an eye out for developments. It is 6:06. Remember, your trusted source for timely and in-depth election coverage is WOAI. Count on us to deliver the latest updates on Decision 2024. I'm Charity McCurdy. Traffic and weather coming up.
San Antonio's First News. We are your Election Central headquarters with full team coverage of this 2024 election. And our coverage rolls on in just a moment. We'll talk about these latest poll numbers out of Iowa. But first, let's get you caught up on traffic and weather together.
Light rain possible this morning, breaks of sun this afternoon, highs in the upper 80s. Tomorrow, partly cloudy skies, highs in the mid to upper 70s. Overnight lows tomorrow in the low 50s. Tomorrow, Wednesday, sunshine and clouds mixed with highs in the upper 70s. It is 74 degrees at Randolph Air Force Base, 74 in Castroville, and 73 right here in Stone Oak. WOAI News Time, 610.
San Antonio's First News. That's Mr. T, Tim Merriman. She's Charity McCurdy. I'm Chris Duell. Coming up at 7:40, White House correspondent John Decker on this election eve. He's a big part of our election 2024 coverage. Before we talk about this Iowa poll, a Des Moines Register Mediacom Iowa poll, results were released over the weekend. Let's first hear from former President Donald Trump over the weekend.
So we got to get our country straightened out, or we're not going to have a country. All right, that's so. And you have a chance in 2 days. And if you don't vote, you're stupid. You're stupid.
Now, former President Trump, Iowa was clearly, and it often goes Republican. It is not a state that was concerning the Trump camp. In fact, back in June, Donald Trump had an 18-point lead over his opponent at the time, Democratic President Joe Biden. In the most recent poll in Iowa in September, before the one that was released over the weekend, Donald Trump had a 4-point lead over Kamala Harris. But the new Des Moines Register Mediacom Iowa poll shows Harris leapfrogging over former President Trump 47-44. By the way, this is the final Iowa poll before the election. Charity, this is stunning to a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, if it turns out to be accurate, it'll be the first time since Barack Obama won the state in 2008 and 2012 that Iowa turned blue. But if former President Trump is not buying this poll, he's saying in a True Social post, it's not even close. And he went on to say, no president has done more for farmers in the great state of Iowa than Donald J. Trump. He says all polls except for one heavily skewed toward the Democrats by a Trump hater who called it totally wrong the last time have me up by a lot.
Yeah, and once again, Charity, you mentioned it right off the top. If these polls are accurate, how much can we rely on these polls? We've seen polls not be right when it comes to Election Day, and I'm wondering how many people actually honestly answer these polls, too. I mean, there's a lot of variables when it comes to polling, and I'm not going to believe it till I see the results.
No, and one thing we know about Donald Trump in the 2016 election and in the 2020 election, he outperformed the polls.
Yeah.
Hillary Clinton nationally was up 6, and Clinton people and most analysts in America said Hillary Clinton will win that election. She did not. Joe Biden was up by 9. The final result was a lot closer. So if Donald Trump does in tomorrow's election, what Donald Trump has been doing is outperform the polls and prove the polls wrong. And I think especially you look at these national numbers, Charity, and the swing state numbers that are so close, I think that benefits Donald Trump.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to fluctuate. But again, we're on the final day before Election Day, and we're seeing that Trump holds on a slight edge in North Carolina over Harris, while Harris apparently is leading Trump in Michigan, but they're both tied in Pennsylvania. And those are according to Fox News polls. So again, this could go either way. I don't think you can put too much stock in polling, which often tends to underestimate Republicans.
And look, it's so close in these polls, if they are accurate, that their margin of error is how much the leads are. So it could be a toss-up. I mean, this could be one of those things that goes into extra innings.
It very well could. And while I did mention, and it is true, that in 2016 and 2020, Donald Trump did outperform the polls and obviously, and in many states proved the polls wrong, I still go back to the polling when Donald Trump wasn't running in 2022, Charity, we heard, and Republicans were confident there would be a red wave in America. And what apparently in the aftermath, it was not the red wave. They did not win the House and Senate seats they expected to win, even though they did win the House. The aftermath, analysts said it was the Roe versus Wade overturning that brought out a lot of women and flipped a lot of those seats. You've got to wonder how much of a factor that might be in tomorrow's election.
Yeah, you just have to basically just pack your patience and just be willing to realize that the polls, everything is just so close, neck and neck, that you really can't put too much stock in one poll over the other. And this could go either way. Even though some of these polls are considered more reputable than others, there's just no telling. I don't think we've ever seen a presidential race this close.
Going to be fascinating, and it's only a day away, and we are your election 2024 headquarters. More coming up. We'll get you caught up on headlines, traffic, weather, and more. WOAI News Time 6:15.
All right, and I got that audio. Just call for it.
Okay.
All right. Thought it was actually a very smart ad.
Yeah. Hey, it's Randy Adams.
I know. I moved that spot as well. Did you see this guy, Incarnate Word?
No.
Look at him. That was his touchdown celebration. He's standing straight up on his head with his hands by his side, and he got flagged for it.
Wow.
Excessive celebration. They should have given him extra points for that, man. It was so cool. It made it on ESPN yesterday on the Sunday Fun Day. I'm just going to throw it to her, right?
Yes.
All right. Stand by, Chris.
Okay. Just ahead of headlines, traffic, and weather together. And then we'll talk about the Julia Roberts campaign ad that's sparking more debate about the gender gap and voting in marriages. But first, Charity, what stories are you following?
Two new national polls show former President Trump and Vice President Harris engaged in an extremely close race for the White House. The U.S. Secret Service is taking steps to enhance security ahead of tomorrow's election. And Dallas Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott is sidelined with a hamstring injury. We'll have more right now, traffic and weather.
Light rain this morning, breaks of sun this afternoon, highs in mid to upper 80s. Tomorrow, partly cloudy skies, highs in the mid 70s. Overnight lows tomorrow in the low 50s. Wednesday, sunshine with a few clouds, highs in the upper 70s. 74 degrees in Alamo Heights, 74 in Alamo Ranch, and 73 right here in Stone Oak. WOAI News Time, 622.
San Antonio's first news. That's Mr. T, Tim Merriman. She's Charity McCurdy. I'm Chris Duell. It's an ad that is getting a lot of attention. It is a pro-Kamala Harris campaign ad, which was created by an organization called Vote Common Good, which encourages evangelical and Catholic voters to break from the Republican Party, and it's voiced by actress Julia Roberts. Let's listen.
In the one place in America where women still have a right to choose, you can vote any way you want, and no one will ever know.
Did you make the right choice?
Sure did, honey. Remember, what happens in the booth stays in the booth.
Kind of like Las Vegas, that voting booth. Charity, you reported on this ad last week. Do you think it will move some women to vote against Donald Trump in this case?
Perhaps, but obviously it's generated a lot of pushback, especially from conservatives who essentially think that it's calling on wives to lie to their husbands. So I do think there are those that are motivated by a particular issue, which has been a rallying cry for Democrats since the overturning of Roe v. Wade, and that is the abortion issue. And I think if you ask some pollsters, they'll tell you that if only men voted in this presidential election, it's largely believed Trump would win. But it's the women that are making this a competitive election.
Now, to be honest with everybody, I have never in the 35 years of marriage ever asked my wife, who did you vote for? I kind of know what she's going to do going into it, but I have never asked her.
Really?
No, ever. Ever. That's why I've been married so long.
Oh,
I mean, seriously,
okay.
if we disagree on that, come on. I have never asked her because I kind of know what she's going to do.
Yeah, same in my household. I've never asked the specific question
ever.
But whenever the news is on or a political candidate is speaking, each of us tend to yell things at the television set. So, I mean, I think each of us know who is voting for whom. But I wonder, Charity, in 2024, how many women across America feel like they must vote the same way that their husband votes?
That's a tough question. and that's a difficult marriage to be in, I think, if you're not aligned politically. I mean, I think things could get pretty nasty in the household. But I guess there are people out there that agree to disagree. Again, it's so hard to tell because the polling is showing this race neck and neck. I've talked to my female friends who've divulged who they're voting for, and I can tell you it's all over the map.
Yeah, opposites attract, though. Remember that.
All right.
Okay, got it.
We'll dive more into that coming up. Also coming up at 6:40, White House correspondent John Decker on the campaign trail with just a day to go. WOAI News Time, 6:25.
Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody.
Woo! Hey, John Decker at 6:40. Beautiful. Oh, let me send you Pags.
Nobody said it was forbidden. I just haven't asked my wife. Man, God, people.
Who said it was forbidden?
Johnny Chingas. Why should it be forbidden to ask your spouse who you voted for? Nobody ever said that.
Common courtesy, he chooses not to.
Don't have to.
Sending you Pags now.
Wow, Johnny, I feel sorry for you, brother. He's equating not voting with your husband as cheating.
What?
Message to wife, cheating on your husband.
I don't understand. I don't understand that
You know
connection.
what? I'm not even going to talk to him. That's crap. Oh, Pags is here.
Pags is here. Trevin, Chris and Mr. T, are you really not going to discuss Donald J. Trump deep-throating the microphone?
No.
When did he deep-throat the microphone? That's your interpretation.
Yeah, that's your interpretation. He simulated fellatio on a microphone stand in one of his rallies because the microphone stand broke. Yeah. And he kind of went, yeah, that's, God.
Trevin, I saw what you're referring to, and I don't think it's, I didn't see what you saw.
Wow, Alex, you really think you're going to get us to tell you who we voted for? Joe Pags is the Joe Pags Show. We are not the Joe Pags Show.
Yeah, Alex, we're not the Joe Pags Show. We're a morning news show. This is San Antonio's first news. You can guess all you want, Alex, but you don't know. So, yeah, Alex, just because we don't say what you want us to say,
exactly,
you want to guess that we're Democrats. Good luck with that, Alex.
Wow. All right, here comes Charity, everybody.
6:30 is our time. San Antonio's first news. Good Monday morning. I'm Charity McCurdy. Among our top stories, just one day left to go until Election Day, and more activity in the Gulf with hurricane season still underway. We'll have the latest right now, traffic and weather together every 10 minutes in mornings. Your weather forecast for this Monday: light rain this morning, windy with scattered thunderstorms this afternoon, a high near 90. Thunderstorms tonight, a low of 62. Right now, 76 degrees. Both candidates for the presidency talked about Election Day over the weekend, but differed in their opinions on voter integrity. Here's Fox's Gernal Scott.
Both Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump hit several battleground states over the weekend. The former president in Pennsylvania Sunday voiced his complaint about how we vote.
We should have one-day voting and paper ballots.
Vice President Harris, speaking in Michigan, called that a tactic to suppress the vote.
The systems that are in place for this election in 2024 have integrity. They are good systems.
The vice president says she has voted and her mail-in ballot is en route to California. Former President Trump says he will vote in Florida on Election Day. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
Vice President Kamala Harris made an appearance on Saturday Night Live with the actress who's been portraying her on SNL, Maya Rudolph, in the cold open.
It is nice to see you, Kamala. It is nice to see you, Kamala. And I'm just here to remind you, you got this. Because you can do something your opponent cannot do. You can open doors.
And Harris is referring to former President Trump's attempt to enter a garbage truck in Wisconsin earlier this week. And former President Trump hit the campaign trail in Pennsylvania, where he made a highly scrutinized joke and referenced the glass protecting him from a potential attack.
To get me, somebody would have to shoot through the fake news. And I don't mind that so much.
Trump holds on to a slight edge in North Carolina. Harris leads in Michigan, while both nominees are tied in Pennsylvania, according to the latest Fox News polls. And recent polling shows that this year's presidential election could be one of the closest ever. Here's Fox's Tanya J. Powers.
The 2024 presidential campaign season has been defined by its neck-and-neck race between former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris. It could be decided by a slim number of votes and would not be the first time in American history. The 1884 election was decided by just 1,047 votes, putting Grover Cleveland in the White House. The 1876 race came down to just one electoral vote, making Rutherford B. Hayes the president. And in the legendary 2000 election, it came down to 36 days of lawsuits, ballot recounts, a Supreme Court decision, and just 537 votes that handed the presidency to George W. Bush. Tanya J. Powers, Fox News.
The U.S. Secret Service is taking steps to enhance security ahead of tomorrow's election. Workers were seen reinforcing fencing at the White House and the Naval Observatory yesterday. The agency said the work is not in response to any specific threat, but part of overall preparations for Election Day and its aftermath. The Secret Service is also planning similar arrangements at the Palm Beach Convention Center, where former President Trump will hold his election night watch party. And the U.S. Justice Department wants to send federal election monitors into Texas, but the state is telling them to stay away. Eric Lycum reports.
Last week, Justice said they were sending poll monitors to 8 Texas counties, including Bexar, Atascosa, Hayes, Waller, Harris, Palo Pinto, and Dallas counties. Late Friday, Texas Secretary of State Jane Nelson told them they won't be allowed in. A 2013 Supreme Court ruling allows states to refuse. It's only been recently that states push back against federal poll watchers.
But as things have gotten more politically charged in our country about elections, the last couple of elections, A lot of states are pushing back on that.
Constitutional law expert David Cole tells NBC5 Dallas he thinks it's healthy that Texas, Florida, and Missouri are rejecting federal election monitors. Eric Lycum, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
Several school districts in the San Antonio area are canceling classes on Election Day. Campuses are often used as polling locations, allowing many people not associated with the school to be on campus during class time. To be on the safe side, district officials decided to give students tomorrow off. Classes on Election Day are canceled in the school districts of Northside, Northeast, Judson, East Central, and Southwest, as well as IDEA public schools. Polling places will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. tomorrow. And Election Day is just a day away, but there's still a lot of work to do. Here's Beth Myers.
At polling places across San Antonio, judges are starting to set up their equipment for tomorrow's big day. Elections coordinator Jackie Callanan says they want to get everything tested now so workers aren't rushed tomorrow.
Our goal is to reduce the stress on Tuesday morning because we're seeing lines before the polls open.
Today's mood at the election headquarters is a mix of excitement and anxiety. Callanan expects that there will be long lines tomorrow on Election Day. There will be just over 300 sites citywide. I'm Beth Myers, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
Hurricane season isn't over yet. The National Hurricane Center says potential tropical cyclone 18 in the Western Caribbean should strengthen into Tropical Storm Rafael today. Forecasters expected to become a Category 1 hurricane as it enters the eastern Gulf of Mexico Wednesday. Drier air and strong wind shear are expected to weaken it back to a tropical storm as it heads into the Gulf. Coastal areas from Texas to the Florida Panhandle should keep an eye out for developments. At least 60 Bastrop County households are evacuated because of a spreading wildfire. The Bastrop County Office of Emergency Management says the fire started around 2 p.m. Sunday west of downtown Bastrop and quickly scorched to 50 acres. As of 6:30 p.m., the Hudson fire had grown to about 400 acres and is now about 20% contained. High winds were helping fan the flames. And no, it's not your imagination. Holiday shopping has already begun.
The minute Halloween ended, some stores started their Christmas deals. Dr. Deborah Fowler with the Texas Tech School of Retail Management says there is a reason it's starting early this year.
Pockets have been tight, and for retailers to reach their sales goals, they need as many selling days as possible.
Also, she says retailers are doing this because this is what customers want. If you're getting in on the deal, she says it's important to save your receipts. That's because as we get closer to Christmas, the sales will go deeper. Michael Board, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
It is 6:37. Traffic and weather together in a minute, but first, to check up your money in the world of business, Courtney Donahoe is live at the Bloomberg News Desk. All right, thanks, Courtney. Remember, your trusted source for timely and in-depth election coverage is WOAI. Count on us to deliver the latest updates on Decision 2024. I'm Charity McCurdy. Here's traffic and weather.
San Antonio's First News. We are your Election Central headquarters. Full team coverage of this 2024 election, which is now only a day away, and a big part of our coverage. White House correspondent, attorney, member of the Supreme Court Bar, John Decker joins us. John, how will the candidates be spending this final day before the election?
Well, no surprise there in those swing states, in the battleground states. For Kamala Harris, she's spending her entire day in the Keystone State, which is so critical to her and her campaign and her path to get to 270 electoral college votes. Many rallies scheduled throughout the day in that state. As for Donald Trump, he too is going to be touching down in Pennsylvania, also an important state for him. Finishing his day in Michigan. That's a state Donald Trump won by just 11,000 votes 8 years ago in 2016, but he lost the state of Michigan to Joe Biden 4 years ago by 154,000 votes, obviously trying to flip that state back red.
John, as far as the latest polling, a new one out of Iowa is raising a lot of eyebrows as it shows Kamala Harris with a 3-point lead over Trump. What's your take on that?
Well, this is a pollster who was accurate in terms of her polling in 2016, accurate in terms of her polling in the lead up to that election in 2020, using the same methodology. I would be concerned, seeing a poll like that. I received a memo from the Trump campaign just 2 hours after that poll came out saying essentially it's an aberration that they have polling which indicates it's not close in Iowa. But that's a state that neither Kamala Harris nor Donald Trump visited at all, spent any money on during the course of this presidential campaign. Reason being, because Donald Trump won that state in both 2016 and 2020. He felt no reason to devote any type of resources to the state of Iowa.
All right, I know I've asked you this many, many times. I'm going to ask you one more time on the eve of election. Will this election be decided? Will we know a winner by Wednesday?
By Wednesday, I don't believe so. By Thursday, I believe we will.
Okay.
I hope I'm wrong in that regard. That would be great to know who the next president of the United States is by Wednesday of this week. But I just think because you see this poll after poll in these swing states, it is so incredibly close that I just don't think that you can count on a certainty as it relates to knowing who the next president will be by Wednesday of this week. Thursday seems more of a possibility. And a reminder, it wasn't until Saturday after the 2020 election that we knew who the next president would be.
And John, whether it's Wednesday, Thursday, or even Saturday that we have a result in this election, we've heard reports of both sides lawyering up to possibly dispute the final outcome here. Is this going to be the new way of approaching presidential elections from now on? Will there always be disputes among who didn't come out on top?
Well, I hope not. I think that, we want to have confidence in our electoral system. I do. That's just me speaking. I think that every election conducted in this country, free and fair election. The Russians, obviously, they try to create chaos, essentially, in our electoral system. We know of instances in which viral videos have been put out trying to show election fraud, and they can trace them directly to Russia. So I would be on guard for that type of thing, and certainly the FBI is as well. But, that's what campaigns need to do. They need to prepare for a possibility of that, and that goes all the way back to the 2000 election cycle, Bush v. Gore, which was decided by the state of Florida by just 537 votes, decided by the Supreme Court. I was in the Supreme Court when Bush v. Gore was argued. And I think since that time period, every campaign, Democrat, Republican, has been prepared for the possibility of litigation following a presidential election.
And John, considering this was the first presidential race since the overturning of Roe v. Wade, do you think it's primarily the female voters that will end up making this a very competitive race?
Well, I think that is what we see in poll after poll. There's a tremendous gender gap that we see. We see it in that poll that you mentioned just a moment ago in Iowa. I mean, a tremendous gender gap. And that's the reason why that poll shows Harris with a 3-point lead over Donald Trump. And I think you can really trace it to the Dobbs decision by the U.S. Supreme Court. Really energized Democratic voters, energized female voters in the 2022 midterm elections. And what Democrats are hoping is that it energizes those women voters once again for this election cycle.
All right, John, before we let you go, I don't know if you saw it yesterday, but I'm sure there's kids all over Philadelphia, all over Pennsylvania, practicing jumping backwards over a player. Did you see Saquon Barkley do that yesterday?
I saw it many times. I've tried to do it myself. It is impossible to do. I can't believe that a human being could do that and do it in a football game. And by the way, top 10 play, the top
Amen.
play on ESPN this morning. No doubt about that.
No doubt. No doubt. It was unbelievable.
Very cool. Well, he has been a big part of our coverage. He certainly will be tomorrow. And however long it takes to determine the winner of this election, that is White House correspondent John Decker. Coming up, your talkbacks, your feelings on this election eve. WOAI News Time, 646. Our election 2024 coverage rolls forward. We're going to hear from you, your thoughts on our talkbacks on this election eve. But first, Charity McCurdy, what stories are you following?
The Justice Department will be monitoring voting in 27 states on election day tomorrow, but Texas is not one of them. A man suspected of being under the influence died in SAPD custody, and a 400-acre wildfire in Bastrop County prompts evacuations. We'll have the latest right now, traffic and weather.
Light rain this morning, breaks of sunshine this afternoon, highs in the mid to upper 80s. Tomorrow, partly cloudy, partly sunny, highs in the mid 70s. Overnight lows tomorrow in the low 50s. Wednesday, a mixture of clouds and sun, highs in the mid to upper 70s. It is 75 degrees in Leon Valley, 75 at the Pearl, and 74 right here in Stone Oak. WOAI News Time, 6:52.
San Antonio's first news. We are your election central headquarters. Full team coverage of this 2024 election until and beyond when we know the winner of this presidential race. And while we go to expert analysts and all of our resources, a big part of what we do involves you. And this morning, we're asking you on the Talkback feature on the free iHeartRadio app, how do you feel on this election eve? How confident are you that your candidate will win? How concerned are you about bad actors involved in this election? And are you concerned that the losing side of this election might act out violently? Charity, how do people tell us that?
The free iHeartRadio app, you launch it, search 1200 WOAI, look for the red circle. That's the talkback button. Hit it, 30 seconds to sound off.
Let's head up to one of the swing states. Let's go to Pennsylvania.
Well, good morning, guys. This is your Pennsylvania truck driver, DJ. I think this would be a good morning for me to weigh in since I'm up here in Pennsylvania and let you know what I see and what I feel. I really believe that driving the highways up here at Pennsylvania, that Trump is going to win Pennsylvania. There's not a doubt in my mind. But I also believe that he's going to pull off either Michigan or Wisconsin. And with him carrying North Carolina, by the time they call Nevada and Arizona, we'll know the winner.
Wow. Well, and
Now that's
a guy-
confidence.
Yes. And as he said, he's driving the streets, the highways of Pennsylvania. And that is, with predictions that we won't know till Wednesday or maybe Saturday. If one of these candidates sweeps the swing states, we could know.
Yeah.
On Tuesday night.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll hope for that. All right, let's check in with our favorite school teacher.
Hey guys, Stephen from Lotto. I have to admit that I've been feeling nervous. I was real confident 2 weeks ago, a week ago, but now I'm just nervous. But a lot of it's my fault, if I'm being honest. All these partisan videos, incendiary language, and hyperbole they use, and it gets you all stirred up. If I'd been more fair and balanced and listened to nonpartisan like WOAI, your 2024 campaign headquarters, see, then I'd have been informed on both sides and felt a lot better. Have a good day.
Thank you, Stephen.
I noticed how he did the WOAI voice.
We might have to turn that into a commercial. But I think a lot of people that like Stephen are nervous going into this election.
Anxiety is high. And I mean, again, that seems like the closest presidential race and recent memory. I've never experienced this level of anxiety surrounding a presidential race. And it's frustrating because it's just so darn close to call. You don't know which poll is accurate or what to believe.
Yeah, this is the first time since 2000 that we've had something like this go on. Yeah, I mean, that's just wild stuff. All right, here's South Texas Willie.
South Texas Willie here. I agree with the other caller. There's no reason to get crazy. It's kind of like getting a new pair of boots. When that one wears out, you get another pair. It'll eventually wear out. there'll be a change. Just remember one thing: those Spurs and hot tubs. South Texas out.
Okay.
I like the South Texas analogy, like
Yeah.
getting a new pair of boots.
I do like that.
Yeah.
I do like that. All right, let's check in with Kevin.
Hey guys and gal, it's Kevin from San Antonio again, and here's my take on the election. It's obvious everyone's on edge, but I think personally what I noticed, what drives that point home, is Halloween night. I noticed a huge drop in trick-or-treaters and people handing out candy in my neighborhood. I took that as a sign it's just people in general being scared. I'm curious what you all noticed and if you saw the same thing. Either way, please be safe out there, get out and vote, and remember, Trump 2024, baby.
Interesting that he would
Yes.
equate fewer trick-or-treaters with maybe more fear out there.
I saw about the same amount of trick-or-treaters in my neighborhood as last year, so I didn't make any kind of connection to the election fears. What about you guys? What about you? Do you have trick-or-treaters in your neighborhood, Chris?
They never show up.
Yeah.
and I am thankful.
Yeah, I've had
They
the
don't.
same number of trick-or-treaters for the last 25 years in a row. Zero.
Yeah.
Okay.
Zero. All right, Kevin actually got back in and finished his take.
One last thing. This is Kevin from San Antonio again. If you can fit this talk back in, I have one more point to make. I think whichever side loses, doesn't matter. There's going to be a subsection of that party that's going to lose their mind. And by lose their mind, I mean some form of civil unrest. Whether it be rioting out in the streets or storming the Capitol again, something's going to happen. I will be surprised if something doesn't happen. At least that's how I feel the state of the race is right now. Have a good day, everyone.
Okay.
Let me ask Charity if, one side loses, obviously, and that side, there is no violence, there is no civil unrest. Would that surprise you?
No, I think everyone, for the most part, the majority of people are just exhausted from just politics in general. And we keep hearing about January 6th and those who ended up being incarcerated over it. I think a lot of people realize that nothing ends well if they act out violently, and they will suffer the consequences for it. There's security cameras everywhere. You will be found and held accountable.
Yeah, I don't think we'll see another Capitol riot. I think they'll be ready for it this time. I don't think we'll see that. But as far as unrest in the streets, it could happen. It could.
I expect to see, I don't know the volume of it, but I expect to see some people acting out.
All right, we've got another one from our good friend in New Braunfels, Big Daddy Chris.
Morning, First News San Antonio family. This is Big Daddy Chris from New Braunfels. Remember what the great Rush Limbaugh said? You can always tell what the Democrats are doing because it's what they're accusing the Republicans of doing. My prediction for this week, I don't know who's going to win the election, but I do have a feeling that Joe Biden will pardon Hunter Biden by the end of this week because I believe his sentencing hearing is coming up for tax evasion. Pay your fair share.
Nice. That's punctuation. Big Daddy.
I do like
That was
that.
his Biden impression, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. All right, we got time to get RK in here real quick.
RK here. Now, this country's not racially divided. It is divided, though. It's the high IQs against the idiots. You don't believe me? Watch what the idiots do. Everybody have a beautiful non-idiot day. Bye, y'all.
We love Art. The morning would not be complete without RK. Thank you. I was getting worried, RK.
I know. I was
Wonder where
concerned.
you were this morning, man. Very cool. All right. Coming up, we will hear from the candidates over the weekend. We will hear from former President Donald Trump and from Vice President Kamala Harris in a segment we call Wait Till You Hear This. Lots more coming at you. Full team coverage of this 2024 election on election eve. But right now, Charity has all the big stories you need to know about because WOAI News Time is 7 o'clock.
Seven o'clock is our time. San Antonio's First News. Good Monday morning. I'm Charity McCurdy. Among our top stories, it is the Election Day Eve and the passing of a music titan. We'll have details, first traffic and weather together every 10 minutes in mornings. Your weather forecast for this Monday: light rain this morning, windy, scattered thunderstorms this afternoon, a high near 90, thunderstorms tonight, a low of 62. Right now, we're at 76 degrees. With Election Day tomorrow, both the Trump and Harris campaigns continue to hold events. Former President Trump was in North Carolina, where he said if he's reelected, the U.S. is in for a rosy future.
This election is a choice between whether we will have 4 more years of incompetence and failure or whether we will begin the 4 greatest years in the history of our country.
Vice President Kamala Harris visited Michigan State University and made a promise to supporters.
I pledge to always put country above party and self, and to be a president for all Americans.
And it is the final day to blitz the battleground states for both presidential candidates and their campaigns. Here's Fox's Jared Halpern with more.
Vice President Harris ends her campaign in a state that could be key to victory, Pennsylvania. Her campaign has announced 3 stops there today in Allentown, Pittsburgh, and Philadelphia. Former President Trump is also in Pennsylvania today with events in Reading and Pittsburgh. He'll start the day in Raleigh, North Carolina, and end his campaign in the same city he's wrapped up his 2 previous runs for the White House, Grand Rapids, Michigan. Jared Halpern, Fox News.
State election officials say early voting in Texas is down this year from 2020's numbers. Early voting ended Friday, and by Thursday, more than 8 million Texans had cast early ballots. That's about 40% of the state's nearly 19 million registered voters. Analysts say it looks like 1 million more Republicans than Democrats voted early in Texas this year. The Justice Department wants to send federal election monitors into Texas, but the state is telling them to stay away. Eric Lycum reports.
Last week, Justice said they were sending poll monitors to 8 Texas counties, including Bexar, Atascosa, Hayes, Waller, Harris, Palo Pinto, and Dallas counties. Late Friday, Texas Secretary of State Jane Nelson told them they won't be allowed in. A 2013 Supreme Court ruling allows states to refuse. It's only been recently that states push back against federal poll watchers.
But as things have gotten more politically charged in our country about elections, the last couple of elections, a lot of states are pushing back on that.
Constitutional law expert David Cole tells NBC5 Dallas he thinks it's healthy that Texas, Florida, and Missouri are rejecting federal election monitors. Eric Lycum, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
And election judges in San Antonio are starting to set up their equipment for tomorrow's big day.
Techs will be all ready if they have to go out, if there's any glitches or anything like that.
Bexar County Elections Coordinator Jackie Callanan says poll workers are anxious and excited. She expects that there will be long lines on the election day. Just like early voting, there will be just over 300 sites open tomorrow morning citywide beginning at 7 a.m. The Bexar County Medical Examiner is working to determine a man's cause of death in police custody over the weekend. San Antonio police responded around 11 a.m. Saturday to a reported disturbance at an apartment complex on Bandera Road. They reportedly found a man trying to open front doors at the complex. They believed he was under the influence, so they took him to a city facility on North Frio Street for treatment. While there, the man became unresponsive. EMS responded and pronounced him dead. The FBI and the Joint Terrorism Task Force foiled a plot to attack a Buc-ee's on I-35 in New Braunfels and 2 high schools. John Mark Dempsey has details.
The man accused of plotting the attack, Cameron Derek Peterson, has pleaded guilty to 1 of the 3 counts against him. KABB television reports that sources say that Peterson was once a student at Canyon High School in New Braunfels. Also included in the plans was New Braunfels High School. Peterson's alleged plan was to execute the mass shootings in 2026 or sooner. In January, he was denied in an attempt to buy a firearm. He tried a second time in May and was flagged due to alleged previous lies on his ATF form. He was arrested in June.
And hurricane season isn't over yet. The National Hurricane Center says potential tropical cyclone 18 in the Western Caribbean should strengthen into tropical storm Rafael today. Forecasters expect it to become a Category 1 hurricane as it enters the eastern Gulf of Mexico Wednesday. Drier air and strong wind shear are expected to weaken it back to a tropical storm as it heads into the Gulf. Grammy Award-winning record producer Quincy Jones has passed away at the age of 91. Here's Tammy Trujillo.
No word yet on the exact cause of death, but it's reported he died peacefully at his home in Bel Air, California on Sunday, surrounded by family. His career in the entertainment industry spanned over 60 years. In that time, he worked with artists including Frank Sinatra and Michael Jackson. Jones received a record 80 Grammy Award nominations, 28 of which he went on to win, and he later received the Grammy Legend Award in 1992. Jones was also nominated for an Academy Award for Best Original Score for his work on the 1967 film In Cold Blood. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
It is 7:07. Remember, your trusted source for timely and in-depth election coverage is WOAI. Count on us to deliver the latest updates on Decision 2024. I'm Charity McCurdy. Traffic and weather coming up.
San Antonio's First News. We are your Election Central headquarters with full team coverage of this 2024 election on this election eve. Coming right up in a segment we call Wait Till You Hear This. We'll hear from each candidate on the campaign trail over the weekend. Coming up as well at 7:40, national correspondent Rory O'Neill. And later this hour, we continue to ask you on the Talkback feature on the free iHeartRadio app, how are you feeling on this election eve? Are you confident your candidate will win? Are you nervous about some shenanigans that might go on during or after this election? But first, let's get you caught up on traffic and weather together.
Light rain this morning, breaks of sun this afternoon, highs in the mid to upper 80s. Tomorrow, partly cloudy, partly sunny, highs in the mid 70s. Overnight lows tomorrow in the low 50s. Wednesday, sunshine and clouds mixed, highs in the mid to upper 70s. It is 71 degrees in Kerrville, Texas, 77 in New Braunfels, and 75 right here in Stone Oak. WOAI News Time, 7:11.
Sounds like a convenience store. Very cool. San Antonio's first news. Every weekday morning at this time, we span the globe to bring you the constant variety of audio in a segment we call Wait Till You Hear This. And we will go to 2 points on the globe this morning. First, you'll hear former President Donald Trump addressing a crowd in Lititz, Pennsylvania. Then we'll hear Vice President Kamala Harris in Dearborn, Michigan. First, the former president.
But so many places, Pennsylvania, I love Pennsylvania. I went to school here. I think the people are incredible. But they found, as I understand it, I mean, I don't know what's happened in the last day or so, but in Lancaster, they found 2,600 ballots, all done by the same hand. In other words, the same exact penmanship, the same hand, the same everything. It was all done by the same pen, the exact same pen. And then they go and they say, well, this is a conspiracy theorist. It's a terrible thing that's happened to our country.
And we are joined today by leaders of the Arab American community, which has deep and proud roots here in Michigan. And I want to say, this year has been difficult, given the scale of death and destruction in Gaza, and given the civilian casualties and displacement in Lebanon. It is devastating. And as president, I will do everything in my power to end the war in Gaza. To bring home the hostages, end the suffering in Gaza, ensure Israel is secure, and ensure the Palestinian people can realize their right to dignity, freedom, security, and self-determination.
That is check that. That is Vice President Kamala Harris speaking in Dearborn, Michigan. Before that, we heard former President Donald Trump speaking in Lititz, Pennsylvania. And listening to the former president in Pennsylvania, Charity, talking about several ballots in the same handwriting with the same pen. He is clearly seeming to lay the foundation for, at the very least, of voting irregularities, if not outright fraud.
Right, which he will point to, I'm sure, if Kamala Harris ends up winning. He will point to those irregularities that he claims have taken place. Although local election officials are saying that that's not true, that those are false claims. Elon Musk has also made similar claims, especially around the battleground state of Pennsylvania. So again, this kind of just plays into what we've been discussing as far as fears of unrest or how people will react should their candidate not win.
Yeah, let's hope that it doesn't get to that, though. Let's hope that we can just accept the results as they are and just go on from there.
Well, and what I asked White House correspondent John Decker a few minutes ago, about both sides lawyering up.
Yeah.
Mr. T says, I hope that, we can accept the results, whatever those results are. I just wonder, Charity, is this the new normal for presidential elections in America, that the losing side is going to say, nope, we did not lose, we're going to court? I mean, then it all comes down to the courts, obviously. Yeah. But is this, just like if it's a close race, you demand a recount. Also, if it's a close race, do you go to the courts and try to fight that result?
It seems like that's been the case for the last couple of presidential elections. So I don't see any reason for that to change, even though Trump has indicated if he does not win tomorrow, that he will not make another run for the White House. But I think if former President Trump will still loom large when it comes to Republicans and future Republican presidential candidates.
Yeah, I guarantee you he will loom large. And as the Republican Party moves on, if he does not win the election, he will still be part of the Republican Party and for years and years and years to come.
Yeah, it's strange to even speculate beyond this result because we don't know what this result's going to be because it is so darn close if you believe the polls. Lots more coming up. We will bring you the latest on this 2024 election, and coming up at 7:40, national correspondent Rory O'Neill on the latest polling numbers from the battleground states. WOAI News Time 7:16. San Antonio's first news just ahead of headlines, traffic, and weather together. This is the place to be for everything election 2024. And this afternoon, the Joe Pags Show is the place to be, as among his guests, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., presidential candidate in this cycle, and now, of course, a big supporter of Donald Trump. And a lot of people believe he will be a big part of the Trump administration should Trump earn re-election. So RFK Jr. on the Joe Pags Show later today. Charity, what stories are you following?
Donald Trump and Kamala Harris will make their last pitch to voters in swing states today. Federal election monitors from the Justice Department have been denied access into Texas polling places, and legendary music producer Quincy Jones has died at the age of 91. We'll have more coming up. Right now, traffic and weather.
Light rain this morning, breaks of sun this afternoon, highs in the mid to upper 80s. Tomorrow, partly cloudy skies, highs in the mid 70s. Overnight lows tomorrow in the low 50s. Then on Wednesday, a mixture of clouds and sun, highs in the mid to upper 70s. 76 degrees at the Pearl, 76 in Monte Vista, and 75 right here in Stone Oak. WOAI News Time, 721.
Yes, you will hear Mike Opelka this morning. Only we're going to have to wait a little bit because he is on assignment. He is on the air. Is it a Philadelphia radio station, Mr. T?
I believe it's either Philadelphia or Florida, one of the two.
Yeah, he's working another radio station. This is what he does. You probably know also. He's like the number one Joe Pags fill-in host. So we have talked to Mike Opelka less than an hour from now at 8:20.
Yes.
Mike Opelka will join us. And we know a lot of people listen for Mike Opelka at this time. So sorry about the inconvenience, but you will hear him this morning. He'll be with us at 8:20. This segment is brought to us by Randy Adams Incorporated. And this is the place to be for all things election 2024. We mentioned RFK Jr. going to join Joe Pags a little bit later this afternoon. And Charity, we've been talking about it all morning. We spoke with White House correspondent John Decker about where the candidates are going to be. And I find it interesting that Donald Trump today, Charity, is going to be in 3 states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and North Carolina, while Kamala Harris is choosing to stay in Pennsylvania all day on election eve. She'll be in Allentown, Pittsburgh, and Philadelphia.
Well, it makes sense she's focusing on Pennsylvania, considering it's the most high-stakes battleground state in the presidential election. 19 electors to whoever wins them. But again, this is this last pitch effort to voters, those who are waiting till election day to cast their ballot. And it's consequential what their message is to voters today, what they have to say. It'll be interesting to see if Harris sticks to optimistic tone, looking ahead, turning the page type message, and whether or not former President Trump will continue to say, Kamala, you're fired, and to point to maybe perhaps election fraud or voting irregularities, to harp on that message as polls show Harris with a slight lead, especially in some of those battleground states.
Yeah, and I think you'll hear the same things we've been hearing from both candidates on both sides. We're going to hear the same formula, so to speak. They're playing the hit. And now I wonder if you're say you're a rock band and you're doing the same show in the city 2 nights in a row, usually change up your set list a little bit for each show. But we've seen that this is not happening with the candidates. They're sticking pretty much with what their hits are.
And probably their advisors are recommending that because they've focus grouped. They've tested audiences on what messages resonate the most, what fires up their supporters. So they probably know that. So they're probably heavily advising each candidate, hey, these are the things that you need to say. But Charity, you brought this up earlier in the program, and I think it's a fascinating dynamic involving this election, which takes place tomorrow. You mentioned a number of analysts believe that if only men voted, that Donald Trump would be reelected president tomorrow, tomorrow's election. Except for, there is a gender gap. This speaks directly to the gender gap that we hear about so much in this race. But because women are voting, it comes down to a question of how many women are going to vote for Kamala Harris. Obviously, there's a number of women who are Trump supporters, but I do find it fascinating, Charity, that one of the big dynamics in this race is if Kamala Harris wins and becomes the first woman president of the United States, it will be because women in great numbers turned out to vote for her. So the women trying to make history and elect the first woman president of the United States, if enough of them who support her and not Trump turn out to vote.
And keep in mind, this is the first presidential contest taking place since the fall of Roe v. Wade. So that may be the driving issue for women heading to the polls, maybe parting from their spouse and voting a different direction. It is largely believed by political analysts that women are making this a competitive election.
That is just so bizarre to me because, you would think about this. Women have voted, since they got the right to vote. Yeah, since they got the right to vote. But to see that they could actually decide this election is fascinating to me.
Yeah, either way, it's going to be a major moment in American history.
Amen.
And we are there every step of the way. You want to be here with us. We are the place to be with all of our resources, with all of our full team coverage, with all of our national and local analysts. Keep it right here on 1200 WOAI. Speaking of those analysts, coming right up at 7:40, national correspondent Rory O'Neill with the latest polling data from the swing states. Charity McCurdy has everything you need to know, all the big stories on this Monday morning at the bottom of the hour. WOAI News Time, 7:26.
Hear me? Your Weather Channel forecast for this Monday: light rain this morning, windy, scattered thunderstorms this afternoon, a high near 90. Thunderstorms tonight, a low of 62. Right now, 77 degrees. Both candidates for the presidency talked about Election Day this past weekend, but differed in their opinions on voter integrity. Here's Fox's Gernal Scott.
Both Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump hit several battleground states over the weekend. The former president in Pennsylvania Sunday voiced his complaint about how we vote.
We should have one-day voting and paper ballots.
Vice President Harris, speaking in Michigan, called that a tactic to suppress the vote.
The systems that are in place for this election in 2024 have integrity. They are good systems.
The vice president says she has voted and her mail-in ballot is en route to California. Former President Trump says he will vote in Florida on Election Day. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
And Vice President Kamala Harris made an appearance on Saturday Night Live with the actress who's been betraying her on SNL, Maya Rudolph, in the cold open.
I don't really laugh like that, do I? A little bit.
And former President Trump hit the campaign trail in Pennsylvania, where he made a highly scrutinized joke in reference to the glass protecting him from a potential attack.
To get me, somebody would have to shoot through the fake news. And I don't mind that so much.
Trump holds on to a slight edge in North Carolina. Harris leads in Michigan, while both nominees are tied in Pennsylvania, according to the latest Fox News polls. With the election day tomorrow, there's still a lot of work to do. Beth Myers reports.
At polling places across San Antonio, judges are starting to set up their equipment for tomorrow's big day. Elections coordinator Jackie Callanan says they want to get everything tested now so workers aren't rushed tomorrow.
Our goal is to reduce the stress on Tuesday morning because we're seeing lines before the polls open.
Today's mood at the election headquarters is a mix of excitement and anxiety. Callanan expects that there will be long lines tomorrow on Election Day. There will be just over 300 sites citywide. I'm Beth Myers, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
Several school districts in the San Antonio area are canceling classes tomorrow. Campuses are often used as polling locations, allowing many people not associated with the school to be on campus during class time. To be on the safe side, district officials decided to give students the day off. Classes on Election Day are canceled in the school districts of Northside, Northeast, Judson, East Central, and Southwest, as well as IDEA Public Schools. Polling places will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. tomorrow. And recent polling shows that this year's presidential election could be one of the closest ever. Fox's Tanya J. Powers has more.
The 2024 presidential campaign season has been defined by its neck-and-neck race between former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris. It could be decided by a slim number of votes and would not be the first time in American history. The 1884 election was decided by just 1,047 votes, putting Grover Cleveland in the White House. The 1876 race came down to just one electoral vote, making Rutherford B. Hayes the president. And in the legendary 2000 election, it came down to 36 days of lawsuits, ballot recounts, a Supreme Court decision, and just 537 votes that handed the presidency to George W. Bush. Tanya J. Powers, Fox News.
And a reminder, hurricane season isn't over yet. The National Hurricane Center says potential tropical cyclone 18 in the Western Caribbean should strengthen into Tropical Storm Rafael today. Forecasters expect it to become a Category 1 hurricane as it enters the eastern Gulf of Mexico Wednesday. Drier air and strong wind shear are expected to weaken it back to a tropical storm as it heads into the Gulf. Coastal areas from Texas to the Florida Panhandle should keep an eye out for developments. A wildfire burning in Bastrop County has prompted the evacuations of dozens and has burned hundreds of acres. Eric Lycum has the details.
That's the sound of the Hudson Fire in Bastrop County moving towards the north. Carrie Hines with Texas A&M Forestry Service tells KXAN the fire was about 20% contained as of early this morning. The area is not heavily populated, but about 36 homes were evacuated with residents and pets sheltering in Smithville. Meanwhile, Hines says firefighters are optimistic about changing conditions.
Thankfully, the forecasts do show that our wind gusts are going to be decreasing and our humidities are coming up overnight. We also expect humidities to be higher just in general.
Governor Abbott, meantime, has deployed air tankers, fire engines, and around 90 additional firefighters. Eric Lankum, News Radio 1200, WOAI.
It is 7:37. Traffic and weather together in a minute. But first, a check of your money in the world of business. Courtney Donahoe is live at the Bloomberg News Desk. All right, thanks, Courtney. Remember, your trusted source for timely and in-depth election coverage is WOAI. Count on us to deliver the latest updates on Decision 2024. I'm Charity McCurdy. Here's traffic and weather.
San Antonio's First News, Charity McCurdy, Mr. T, Tim Merriman. I'm Chris Duell. Full team coverage of this 2024 election rolls on, and a big part of our coverage is national correspondent Rory O'Neill, who joins us now. And Rory, there's word that some of the swing states may be shifting, at least according to the polls. What do we know?
Yeah, we saw this poll come out of Iowa this weekend, and boy, that has really shaken things up among the political insider crowd, because Ann Seltzer, the woman behind the poll, is almost always right. She specializes in polling in Iowa. That's what she does. She did it for the primary. She's done it for previous elections. The last two elections, she properly predicted that Donald Trump would win Iowa. He did, and she was right within about 1.5 or 2 points. So it was darn close. Well, over the weekend, doesn't she come out with a poll that shows Kamala Harris now leads in Iowa 47-44, which is about a 7-point swing from her last poll in September. So that is huge movement. But one of the issues that may be driving the vote there is abortion. Iowa instituted a more restrictive abortion laws that some of the women there may not like. and that may be motivating them to get out to the polls and to support Kamala Harris.
Rory, what about infrequent voters, people who are registered to vote but didn't cast a ballot in 2020? Are they considered a big X factor in this election?
They are so frustrating. We're trying to read the tea leaves here and see what's driving voters. But you know what can happen with those infrequent flyers is that it's another issue that could drag them to the polls. You know, here in Florida, we've got a recreational marijuana measure on the ballot. That's going to drive young voters in unprecedented ways. I think Florida's already had 56% turnout from the numbers I saw this morning. To give you an idea as to how much interest there is. Abortion issues, protecting abortion, though, in this case, also on the ballot in Florida. Again, something likely to drive out the younger vote. And that's what we're going to find in state after state with these localized issues on the ballots. Oftentimes, they can be the driver for some of these infrequent voters.
What are some of the other states that aren't considered battlegrounds? What are those polls saying?
Well, you know, North Carolina, I guess, is now back in battleground territory because Donald Trump has got a lot of visits there. In the final 48 hours of the campaign, he's making 3 stops in North Carolina. A couple of weeks ago, we would have said North Carolina's in his back pocket, but now that one looks to be much more closer to a toss-up, or certainly there must be some internal polling data they're seeing that shows that Trump has to be on the ground there to make sure his team turns out in force through tomorrow. And meanwhile, Kamala Harris is there in Pennsylvania, which we all know is the Keystone State is critical for her campaign. It's a lot harder for a Democrat to win the White House without Pennsylvania. So she needs to win Pennsylvania if she's going to win the White House.
Rory, you are a veteran of many elections. So many people, so many predictions on when we're going to know who the winner is. You mentioned Pennsylvania. One of our guests said Pennsylvania won't have those votes counted until Saturday. When do you expect we'll have a result in this election?
Well, Pennsylvania got some new machinery that actually opens envelopes faster, believe it or not. That's how many absentee ballots they work through there. So that actually could speed up the process. It might take 2 days rather than 4. But if North Carolina falls for Harris and she can get the rest of the blue wall, believe it or not, she may not need Pennsylvania. But again, there's a whole lot of speculation, and we're all factoring in that one swing district in Nebraska with that one electoral vote that could go in her favor. So there is a lot of different scenarios are being calculated right now. But again, the easiest path to victory is for Harris to get to Pennsylvania and then run the blue wall, and then what she needs after that is at least achievable. Whereas if Donald Trump can stop her in Pennsylvania, it's going to be hard for her to win.
Going to be a fascinating night tomorrow night. He is national correspondent Rory O'Neill, a big part of our full team coverage. This is the place to be for everything you need to know about the 2024 election. And a big part of our coverage is you as well, your talkbacks. How are you feeling about your candidate and about this election on election eve? We'll hear from you coming up. We'll get you caught up on headlines, traffic, and weather. WOAI News Time, 7:45. Just ahead of headlines, traffic, and weather together. And oh my goodness, Charity, Mr. T just played me a talkback from a veteran.
Amazing.
That it is amazing. It is powerful. We're going to play it in a moment. And it'll speak for itself.
Amen.
You don't want to miss it. It's moments away. Charity, what stories are you tracking?
Many school districts will be closed on Election Day tomorrow as polls open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The U.S. Secret Service is taking steps to enhance security ahead of tomorrow's election. And Bastrop County's Hudson Fire is growing at a rapid rate. We'll bring you the latest right now, traffic and weather.
Some rain this morning and breaks of sun this afternoon, highs in the mid to upper 80s. Tomorrow, partly cloudy, partly sunny, highs in the mid 70s. Overnight lows tomorrow in the low 50s. Wednesday, a mixture of clouds and sun, highs in the mid to upper 70s. 77 degrees at Lackland Air Force Base, 77 at Fort Sam Houston, 76 right here in Stone Oak. WOAI News Time, 7:51.
San Antonio's first news. We are your election central headquarters. This is the place to be for everything election 2024. Not only our full team coverage, our national analysts, our local analysts. Randy Beamer will be a big part of that this week as well. But you, as you listen and participate in what we do here at 1200 WOAI, you're a big part of it as well. On the Talkback feature on the free iHeartRadio app all morning long, we're asking you on this election eve, how are you feeling? How are you feeling about your candidate of choice? How are you feeling about how fellow Americans will behave throughout this election process? And Mr. T, you played this one to me moments ago. It is powerful.
Very powerful. So here it is.
Good morning, WOAI, Whiskey 2 Kilo, an American veteran, reminding everybody that when our men and women fight abroad, we do not fight as Democrats or Republicans. We fight as Americans. Tomorrow will change. The question is, how will you affect that change as an individual? Will you be proactive, reactive, or remain complacent? Remember, the American government works for we, the people, and we're not important once every 4 years. America's important every day.
Boom.
Wow. Drop the mic and walk away. Wow.
Such an important reminder.
It is. And what I got from that, too, is, look, we're Americans before we're Democrats or Republicans. And if we can get past that, maybe this divide would go away.
You know, we were all working here during 9/11 and in the aftermath of 9/11. And as god-awful as 9/11 was, for a brief, shining moment, and it felt like a moment because it ended relatively quick, we were all Americans.
Yes, we were.
We came together as Americans, and we had hoped that this would usher in a new era of working together, and it didn't last for very long. And especially to hear that from a veteran.
From a veteran,
who
yes.
knows what it's like to serve our country and serve America as an American and put your life on the line and answer your country's call. His message is something we should all heed.
Absolutely. You got to think of our servicemen and women who are fighting for our freedoms overseas. You know, before, you think of acting out just because a presidential election didn't go your way. You should definitely give pause and think of the men and women that are allowing us to voice our opinions and live in a free country. And it's just, again, I think we just all have to take a deep breath and realize it's all going to be okay.
Yeah.
Whether it goes one way or the other.
Yeah, see, I think people forget that. And that's why we wear red on Fridays, to remember everyone deployed until they all come home. All of them. And they're not home yet.
Yeah. And there are a lot of countries and a lot of terrorists and a lot of people who would do us harm. I think of terrorist organizations like Hezbollah, like Hamas. I think of countries like China and Iran and Russia. And at all times, but now more than ever, we need those who defend our freedom.
Yeah, and we need reminders every now and then from our veterans like we just got. All right, here's another one from our wheelchair warrior.
Good morning. This is the wheelchair warrior from New Braunfels. My fear about the election is there's going to be fighting, lots of fighting in the court and on the streets. Saddens me to see that happen, what I saw happen in Beirut back in the early 80s. You guys have a great day, and let's hope Trump wins. He's the only hope we have left.
Okay.
And we thank the wheelchair warrior for his service as well. He was on the ground in Beirut, Lebanon. You could hear from his talk back there. We thank all veterans. We thank all veterans and all active duty, and all of us are Air Force brats.
Yep.
We had dads in the Air Force, so we thank families because families serve too. Families make sacrifices too, and a lot of people don't see that. So I appreciate that message.
Yeah, and I especially appreciate talkbacks from our military members and Military City USA. I think they have a unique perspective on this political divide and just the election in general and how we react to it as Americans. I think it's a really important reminder to remain calm.
Amen to that. All right, here is Greg out in Atkins, Texas.
Good morning. This is Greg in Atkins. And yeah, I feel confident that my candidate, I voted for Donald Trump, and I feel confident he's going to win. They usually underpoll him, and his numbers have been huge this year. So I feel pretty confident he's going to win the electoral college vote and also the overall popular vote. Shenanigans afterwards, of course, there will. Antifa and the left, they always use any excuse they can to riot and steal from people. So I think that's going to happen.
Let's hope he's wrong on that.
Yeah, but he does cite historically in 2016 and 2020, Donald Trump outperformed the polls. And I've often felt this and I've vocalized this. If the polls are razor thin, and they are, based on what we saw in 2016 and 2020, that would seem to benefit Donald Trump if he can do what he did in 2016 and 2020, and that is outperform the polls. Coming up, big 8 o'clock hour, national correspondent Aaron Real. Those latest unusual polling numbers from Iowa, what do they mean? Mike Opelka at 8:20, Joe Pags and UTSA head football coach Jeff Traylor at 40. And a big Joe Pags show today. He's got RFK Jr. on the show this afternoon. He'll tell us about that. WOAI News Time, 7:57.
Jalapeno. 8 o'clock is our time. San Antonio's first news. Good Monday morning. I'm Charity McCurdy. Among our top stories, it is Election Day Eve and the passing of a music titan. We'll have details, first traffic and weather together every 10 minutes in mornings. Your weather forecast for this Monday: light rain this morning, windy, scattered thunderstorms this afternoon, a high near 90. Thunderstorms tonight, a low of 62. Get a move on. It is 77 degrees. With Election Day tomorrow, but the Trump and Harris campaigns continue to hold events. Former President Trump was in North Carolina, where he said if he's reelected, the U.S. is in for a rosy future.
This election is a choice between whether we will have 4 more years of incompetence and failure or whether we will begin the 4 greatest years in the history of our country.
Vice President Kamala Harris visited Michigan State University and made a promise to supporters.
I pledge to always put country above party and self, and to be a president for all Americans.
And it is the final day to blitz the battleground states for both presidential candidates. Here's Fox's Jared Halpern.
Vice President Harris ends her campaign in a state that could be key to victory, Pennsylvania. Her campaign has announced 3 stops there today in Allentown, Pittsburgh, and Philadelphia. Former President Trump is also in Pennsylvania today with events in Reading and Pittsburgh. He'll start the day in Raleigh, North Carolina, and end his campaign in the same city he's wrapped up his 2 previous runs for the White House, Grand Rapids, Michigan. Jared Halpern, Fox News.
Well, state election officials say early voting in Texas is down this year from 2020's numbers. Early voting ended Friday, and by Thursday, more than 8 million Texans had cast early ballots. That's about 40% of the state's nearly 19 million registered voters. Analysts say it looks like 1 million more Republicans than Democrats voted early in Texas this year. And with the election tomorrow, there's still a whole lot of work to do. Beth Myers has more.
At polling places across San Antonio, judges are starting to set up their equipment for tomorrow's big day. Elections coordinator Jackie Callanan says they want to get everything tested now so workers aren't rushed tomorrow.
Our goal is to reduce the stress on Tuesday morning because we're seeing lines before the polls open.
Today's mood at the election headquarters is a mix of excitement and anxiety. Callanan expects that there will be long lines tomorrow on Election Day. There will be just over 300 sites citywide. I'm Beth Myers, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
And the polls open tomorrow from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The U.S. Justice Department is sending federal election monitors to 8 counties in Texas, and the Texas Secretary of State, Jane Nelson, is telling them, don't bother. Constitutional law expert David Cole tells NBC5 Dallas, even though federal election monitoring has happened since the Voting Rights Act of the 60s, it wasn't always this way.
As a matter of practice, people have generally been fairly receptive to that because most election officials are kind of proud of their work and want to show off that they're doing it well.
But he says recent political divisions in a Supreme Court ruling favoring states allows them to bar the monitors. The counties include Bexar, Atascosa, Hayes, Waller, Harris, Palo Pinto, and Dallas counties. A wildfire burning in Bastrop County has prompted the evacuations of dozens and has burned hundreds of acres. Eric Lycum has the latest.
That's the sound of the Hudson Fire in Bastrop County moving towards the north. Carrie Hines with Texas A&M Forestry Service tells KXAN the fire was about 20% contained as of early this morning. The area is not heavily populated, but about 36 homes were evacuated with residents and pets sheltering in Smithville. Meanwhile, Hines says firefighters are optimistic about changing conditions
Thankfully, the forecasts do show that our wind gusts are going to be decreasing and our humidities are coming up overnight. We also expect humidities to be higher just in general.
Governor Abbott, meantime, has deployed air tankers, fire engines, and around 90 additional firefighters. Eric Lankham, News Radio 1200, WOAI.
Dallas Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott says he's not sure when he'll be back on the field after injuring his hamstring. Prescott suffered the injury in the third quarter of yesterday's game against the Falcons in Atlanta. Cooper Rush stepped into the game in the fourth quarter to sub. Wide receiver CeeDee Lamb battled through an apparent right shoulder injury as well. The Cowboys lost the game 21-27, falling to 3-5 on the season. Grammy Award-winning record producer Quincy Jones has passed away at the age of 91. Tammy Trujillo reports.
No word yet on the exact cause of death, but it's reported he died peacefully at his home in Bel Air, California on Sunday, surrounded by family. His career in the entertainment industry spanned over 60 years. In that time, he worked with artists including Frank Sinatra and Michael Jackson. Jones received a record 80 Grammy Award nominations, 28 of which he went on to win, and he later received the Grammy Legend Award in 1992. Jones was also nominated for an Academy Award for Best Original Score for his work on the 1967 film In Cold Blood. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
It is 8:06. Remember, your trusted source for timely and in-depth election coverage is WOAI. Count on us to deliver the latest updates on Decision 2024. I'm Charity McCurdy. Traffic and weather coming up.
San Antonio's First News. We are your Election Central headquarters, full team coverage of this 2024 election. It's a big 8 o'clock hour. Coming right up, national correspondent Aaron Real, the latest polling news out of Iowa, surprising a lot of people. 8:20, Mike Opelka from the Pure Opelka podcast. He joins us an hour later than usual because he's a man in demand this morning and most mornings. 8:40, Joe Pags, who will have Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on his show this afternoon. He'll tell us about that. Also, UTSA head football coach Jeff Traylor. Before we get to Aaron, let's get you caught up on traffic and weather together.
Some light rain this morning, breaks of sun this afternoon, highs in the mid to upper 80s. Tomorrow, partly cloudy, partly sunny, highs in the mid 70s. Overnight lows tomorrow in the low 50s. Wednesday, a mixture of clouds and sun, highs in the mid to upper 70s. 77 degrees in Alamo Heights, 77 in Leon Valley, 76 right here in Stone Oak. WOAI News Time 810.
San Antonio's first news. That's Mr. T, Tim Merriman. She's Charity McCurdy. I'm Chris Duell. Mike Opelka coming right up at 8:20. But right now, let's check in with national correspondent Aaron Real. Aaron, when we last spoke, I didn't think on Monday morning we'd be talking Iowa. But after that new Des Moines Register Mediacom poll over the weekend, it's time to talk Iowa. What do you know?
It's time to talk Iowa, but I don't know how right this poll was. There's been a lot of speculation that it was actually done incorrectly, but if it wasn't, well, then Kamala Harris is leading Trump in Iowa 47-44 among likely voters. Very big surprise. Neither candidate campaigned in that state because Trump had it. He easily won it in the past two presidential elections. And this Seltzer and Co. conducted the survey, 800 voters in Iowa from Monday through Thursday. Now, again, I've done a deep dive into this. It might be an anomaly. The Trump campaign was quick to rebut by citing an Emerson College poll that was released Saturday. It showed Trump leading Harris 53-43. Those are more numbers that we were anticipating and had been hearing. So we'll have to see. Could it be a canary in the coal mine? Maybe, possibly, but doubtful. And then beyond that, the early voting. This is a big one. This is going to be the election of early voters. That could change things. And having this much opportunity to vote could really change things. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that as well. But this Iowa one does have Kamala Harris winning, and that would be an upset for sure.
And Aaron, how much is the female vote a factor in this Iowa poll and really across the country in this election?
Oh, it's massive. Harris leads this poll. She's powered by really strong numbers from the female voters, particularly the older ones and the independent ones. Age and gender are actually the two most dynamic factors in terms of how people are going to vote. And if you look at like the young men, Trump has really been courting young men. If it works out, they are definitely leaning towards him. It's estimated that Trump has like 5 to 7 points better among young men than he did in 2020. If they show up. They don't show up historically. Like the younger voters never show up, or at least half of them show up if they're 18 to 24. And of that cohort, women are the ones who show up much more than men. Young men feel disillusioned and unengaged and disenfranchised by the institutions that we have today. So will they show up? That's the big question.
All right, polls aside, Aaron, do you think we will know who the president of the United States elect will be come Wednesday morning?
I'm going to say it. Yes, I do.
All right.
I do. I know a lot of people don't. I know a lot of people. I don't think this is going to be as big a nail biter as we anticipate.
Wow. Okay. All right.
But I don't think so.
Very intriguing. She's a big part of our election 2024 coverage. National correspondent Aaron Real. Another big part of our coverage is Mike Opelka, who normally joins us at 7:20, but he was on the radio elsewhere at that time this morning. But we still have him. He joins us next. WOAI News Time 8:13. Coming up, Mike Opelka from the Pure Opelka podcast. His thoughts on this election eve. First, Charity McCurdy, what stories are you following?
Well, two new national polls show former President Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris engaged in an extremely close race for the White House. The U.S. Secret Service is taking steps to enhance security ahead of tomorrow's election. And Dallas Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott is sidelined with a hamstring injury. We'll have the latest. Right now, traffic and weather.
Some light rain this morning, this afternoon. You'll see some sunshine, highs in the mid to upper 80s. Then tomorrow, partly cloudy, partly sunny, highs in the mid 70s, and overnight lows tomorrow night are going to be in the low 50s. Then on Wednesday, a mixture of clouds and sun, highs in the upper 70s. It is 77 degrees in New Braunfels, Texas, 77 in Von Ormy, and 76 right here in Stone Oak. WOAI News Time is 8:18.
San Antonio's First News, our full team coverage of this 2024 election rolls on in just a moment. We'll be speaking with Mike Opelka from the Pure Opelka podcast. Coming up just after the bottom of the hour, Joe Pags of the Joe Pags Show. He will have among his guests today Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who was a candidate for the presidency, as you well know, now fully expected to be a member of the Trump White House, if not directly the Trump cabinet, should Donald Trump win re-election tomorrow. And UTSA head football coach Jeff Traylor going to join us as well. Right now, we welcome in Mike Opelka from the Pure Opelka podcast, brought to us by Randy Adams Incorporated. And Mike, I want to ask you what we've been asking our listeners all morning long. On this election eve, how do you feel? How do you feel about your candidate's chances, which, of course, is Donald Trump? Are you confident?
How do I feel? Perhaps Joe Biden put it best.
These are the kind of guys you like to smack in the ass.
I'm feeling nervous. I do see these massive crowds, and I do see the registration numbers, and at the same time, the confidence on the left makes me nervous, because when they get confident, you wonder, what do they know? You know, what do they already have in the bag? So I here's my prediction, and I'll say it again tomorrow if you ask me.
Okay.
I think we're going to know tomorrow if it's a Trump landslide. And if we don't know tomorrow by midnight, Tuesday night, then I suspect it's going to be a very close Kamala victory.
Ooh.
So it's either a wipeout or an eke out.
Yeah. And you know, that Iowa poll, Mike, is showing Harris 3 points ahead of Trump. And then that's making a lot of headlines this morning. But there are those that are questioning the methodology used.
Well, including the woman who was behind it. She's the one who basically told Mark Halperin that, yeah, the methodology skews very heavily to older women who voted again for Democrats in the past. I have friends who do radio in Iowa, and they're telling you this is truly an outlier when it comes to polling, that this isn't even close to reality. But the fact that CNN latched onto it and has been pushing it night and day since Saturday, that tells you that there may be a little bit of desperation in the air.
All right. So I saw the opening of Saturday Night Live, and Kamala Harris was on it, and she rehearsed that for 3 hours, really?
Yeah, 3 hours for less than 3 minutes worth of material. There were more disturbing things about it. Number one, SNL should get a smack in the back of the head for copying themselves. They couldn't even come up with a new sketch. They used the same thing that Jimmy Fallon did with Trump in 2015. And on top of it, the opening portion of that sketch, which isn't getting any attention, is basically obscene. And what it has Donald Trump doing to a microphone, because they open up with him in the garbage man vest. And that's really kind of rude. And then what they did with Tim Kaine later in the show, because Tim Kaine's in a really tight race against a guy named Hung Kao, a Republican who's just an great American story. Parents came here from Vietnam. He went to military academies, served in the military. The guy is a rock star, and suddenly he's getting tight. And what does SNL do? They do a 5-minute sketch plugging his name and that he was Hillary Clinton's running mate and that he's a senator in Virginia. This whole thing smacks of election interference.
So, Mike, looking at where the candidates are today, Donald Trump will be in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and North Carolina. Kamala Harris staying in the state of Pennsylvania, in Allentown, Pittsburgh, and Philadelphia. Do you think this all comes down to Pennsylvania? Does the candidate who wins Pennsylvania, is that going to be our next president?
That's what they've told us, Chris. And there are a couple of things here that have me saying, well, maybe yes and maybe no. Maybe no, because let's remember that Hillary Clinton finished her campaign in Pennsylvania with a concert, and that's what Kamala's going to be doing. And so I wonder why they're going back to that well if it didn't work the first time. I'm hearing from some pretty reliable sources that Trump has a very solid path to victory without Pennsylvania. But that would be a really bizarre situation because we thought forever and ever and ever that that's the deal. And then there is the very encouraging Atlas poll. And this is the guy who was the most credible pollster in 2020. And he is now saying that if white males turn out for Trump on election day, he will win Pennsylvania and pretty much all the Rust Belt states. And that was going to make it look like a landslide. So that's the one that is probably the most comforting to people like me who are a little nervous.
And Mike, we know over 77 million have voted early. So how important are those final pitch messages from the candidates to those who are waiting to cast their ballots tomorrow?
Well, the interesting thing, Charity, is that there are so few people who don't know. I don't know anybody who doesn't know. Don Lemon ran into a guy in the streets of some Ohio town who voted for Trump in 2016 and voted for Trump in 2020, and he's undecided today, which doesn't make any sense to me. But there are those unicorns who are out there who haven't made a decision yet. And so all of this media is playing to them.
Before we let you go, I got to ask you about Quincy Jones. We lost him at the age of 91. Music legend for sure.
Quincy Jones was the coolest human being I've ever met in my life. I met him and we ate caviar and drank champagne together at a Central Park boathouse at a really small event, and sat and talked to them. And now he was in his 60s and everybody just called him Q. When you're just known by one initial, when you're just Q, and everybody's coming and bowing and scraping, and the only food they were serving was champagne and caviar. That tells you everything you need to do. The guy worked with everybody from Sinatra to Michael Jackson. What a legend. What a story, and what a brain that guy had.
Amen to that.
He was amazing. You can get more Mike Opelka from his Pure Opelka podcast. Get it wherever you get your podcast. We recommend the free iHeartRadio app. Another episode will drop today. You don't want to miss that. Mike is brought to us by Randy Adams Incorporated. Of course, Mike will join us tomorrow on Election Day as well. He's a big part of our coverage, as is Joe Pags. Joe Pags will have Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on his show this afternoon. He'll talk to us about that after the bottom of the hour. And at 8:40, UTSA head football coach Jeff Traylor, big win against a very, very good team Saturday at the Alamo Dome. We'll talk about that and more coming up. WOAI News Time, 8:26.
8:30 is our time. San Antonio's first news. Good Monday morning. I'm Charity McCurdy. Among our top stories, just one day left until the election and more activity in the Gulf with hurricane season still underway. We'll have details, first traffic and weather together every 10 minutes in mornings. Your weather forecast for this Monday: light rain this morning, windy with scattered thunderstorms this afternoon, a high near 90. Thunderstorms tonight, a low of 62. Right now, 77 degrees. Both presidential candidates talked about Election Day this past weekend, but differed in their opinions on voter integrity. Here's more from Fox's Gernal Scott.
Both Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump hit several battleground states over the weekend. The former president in Pennsylvania Sunday voiced his complaint about how we vote.
We should have one-day voting and paper ballots.
Vice President Harris, speaking in Michigan, called that a tactic to suppress the vote.
The systems that are in place for this election in 2024 have integrity. They are good systems.
The vice president says she has voted and her mail-in ballot is en route to California. Former President Trump says he will vote in Florida on Election Day. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
Vice President Kamala Harris made an appearance on Saturday Night Live with the actress who's been portraying her on SNL, Maya Rudolph, in the cold open.
It is nice to see you, Kamala. It is nice to see you, Kamala. And I'm just here to remind you, you got this. Because you can do something your opponent cannot do. You can open doors.
Harris is referring to former President Trump's attempt to enter a garbage truck in Wisconsin earlier last week. Meantime, Trump hit the campaign trail in Pennsylvania, where he made a highly scrutinized joke in reference to the glass protecting him from a potential attack.
To get me, somebody would have to shoot through the fake news. And I don't mind that so much.
Trump holds onto a slight edge in North Carolina. Harris leads in Michigan, while both nominees are tied in Pennsylvania, according to the latest Fox News polls. And recent polling shows that this year's presidential election could be one of the closest ever. Fox's Tanya J. Powers has more.
The 2024 presidential campaign season has been defined by its neck-and-neck race between former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris. It could be decided by a slim number of votes and would not be the first time in American history. The 1884 election was decided by just 1,047 votes, putting Grover Cleveland in the White House. The 1876 race came down to just one electoral vote, making Rutherford B. Hayes the president. And in the legendary 2000 election, it came down to 36 days of lawsuits, ballot recounts, a Supreme Court decision, and just 537 votes that handed the presidency to George W. Bush. Tanya J. Powers, Fox News.
And the U.S. Secret Service is taking steps to enhance security ahead of tomorrow's election. Workers were seen reinforcing fencing at the White House and the Naval Observatory yesterday. The agency said the work is not in response to any specific threat, but part of overall preparations for Election Day and its aftermath. The Secret Service is also planning similar arrangements at the Palm Beach Convention Center, where former President Trump will hold his election night watch party. And the U.S. Justice Department wants to send federal election monitors into Texas, but the state is telling them to stay away. Eric Lycum reports.
Last week, Justice said they were sending poll monitors to 8 Texas counties, including Bexar, Atascosa, Hayes, Waller, Harris, Palo Pinto, and Dallas counties. Late Friday, Texas Secretary of State Jane Nelson told them they won't be allowed in. A 2013 Supreme Court ruling allows states to refuse. It's only been recently that states push back against federal poll watchers.
But as things have gotten more politically charged in our country about elections, the last couple of elections, a lot of states are pushing back on that.
Constitutional law expert David Cole tells NBC5 Dallas he thinks it's healthy that Texas, Florida, and Missouri are rejecting federal election monitors. Eric Lycum, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
Several school districts in San Antonio are canceling classes tomorrow. Campuses are often used as polling locations, allowing many people not associated with the school to be on campus during class time. To be on the safe side, district officials decided to give students tomorrow off. Classes on Election Day are canceled in the school districts of Northside, Northeast, Judson, East Central, and Southwest, as well as IDEA public schools. Polling places will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. tomorrow. And locally, election workers still have a whole lot of work to do. Here's Beth Myers.
At polling places across San Antonio, judges are starting to set up their equipment for tomorrow's big day. Elections coordinator Jackie Callanan says they want to get everything tested now so workers aren't rushed tomorrow.
Our goal is to reduce the stress on Tuesday morning because we're seeing lines before the polls open.
Today's mood at the election headquarters is a mix of excitement and anxiety. Callanan expects that there will be long lines tomorrow on Election Day. There will be just over 300 sites citywide. I'm Beth Myers, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
At least 60 Bastrop County households have been evacuated because of a spreading wildfire. The Bastrop County Office of Emergency Management says the fire started around 2 p.m. yesterday west of downtown Bastrop and quickly scorched 50 acres. As of 6:30 p.m., the Hudson fire grew to about 400 acres and is now about 20% contained. High winds were helping fan the flames. Well, no, it's not your imagination. Holiday shopping has begun. Here's Michael Board.
The minute Halloween ended, some stores started their Christmas deals. Dr. Deborah Fowler with the Texas Tech School of Retail Management says there is a reason it's starting early this year.
Pockets have been tight, and for retailers to reach their sales goals, they need as many selling days as possible.
Also, she says retailers are doing this because this is what customers want. If you're getting in on the deal, she says it's important to save your receipts. That's because as we get closer to Christmas, the sales will go deeper. Michael Board, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
It is 8:37. Traffic and weather together in a minute. But first, a check of your money in the world of business. Courtney Donahoe is live at the Bloomberg News Desk. All right, thanks, Courtney. Remember, your trusted source for timely and in-depth election coverage is WOAI. Count on us to deliver the latest updates on Decision 2024. I'm Charity McCurdy. Here's traffic and weather.
Two wide receivers either side and an empty gun. McCown to throw. Deep ball. He's got Carpenter open. He's got a 20, 15, 10, and down at the 7-yard line. They're going to.
Owen McCown to Chris Carpenter. A big play for the UTSA Roadrunners. Andy Everett with the call on Ticket 760 as the Roadrunners defeat a very good Memphis team at the Alamo Dome, 44-36. Let's talk to UTSA head football coach Jeff Traylor. Coach, congratulations on the win against such a very, very good team. This one has to feel pretty good.
Yeah, I was happy for our kids. I mean, that was, probably the second best team we played or in there with, early in the year with Texas State as well. But they were very, very talented and really happy for my kids.
Yeah, Coach, this is the first win against a top 25 team. And you guys also broke some school records with this victory, I understand.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable with all the winning we've done here in the last 5 years that I didn't realize that was our first top 25 team to beat. That was pretty cool. Tate Sandell made a 54-yard field goal. He actually made a 60-yarder, which was really cool. He bounced it off the bar and went in, and they had called timeout right before he kicked it. So that was cool. So even though it didn't count, his mom will have a good video of it. And then Jamal Ligon, broke the school's all-time record for tackles, bumping out over Rashad Wisdom right now. So that was cool as well.
Coach, just how fast is Chris Carpenter?
I wish we had our catapult data. You can't get that in the dome. You got to be outside to get it. But, Willie, our other great receiver, had his baby. And wouldn't you know, this year, like it came on the weekend when the Memphis game. So Willie couldn't be at the game. So we literally were moving Chris around in the game, like to run every post route, every go route, every deep ball we threw. We just threw them all to Chris. So we had to get him rested on the sideline. He also returns punts. He's had back-to-back 100-yard games. And Chris is, with the injury we've had at receiver, which has been unbelievable this year, Chris has had to step up and become our one. And he had been really, his plan was to be a return specialist, and kind of be a guy that's a role player for us. But now he's our top guy, and he's really stepping up for us.
Coach, to get such a big quality win like this at this point in the season, with a bye coming up and then 3 more games to be played. And I'm looking at your schedule right now. I see number 18 Army to close out the season. What does this do for your team and the team's confidence and to see that from the team standpoint, everything come together in a big game like it did?
I think more than anything, it just speaks to the character of our team. That whenever you lose on the last second, like you did against Rice, and you lose the way we lost against Tulsa, those are just literally as gut-wrenching of losses you will ever occur in your life. And that our locker room did not splinter, and they come home where I don't even know how much of an underdog they were. I would imagine a double-digit dog at home to a great Memphis team. And then you throw on top, Willie can't show up the day of the game, and Robert Henry, our tailback, breaks his thumb in pregame catching a kickoff. I mean, it was looking pretty doom and gloom. We were in the locker room before the game. It's like my kids were like, what else could happen? And I'm like, man, literally, let's just keep it close 1 quarter at a time, and let's see where we are in the fourth. And we got out there with a victory. So you couldn't be more perfect at what you're saying. Going into a bye, maybe we can get some of those 18 that were out Saturday back. I think there's a chance we could get 3 or 4 of them back. 12 of them are out for the year, but there's still a hope that 6 of those guys could get back in the roster here down this last month.
And Coach, I know you guys had roughly 20,000 in the Dome cheering on the team. How much is that a factor and getting the team fired up?
Yeah, it was incredible. I really, we had to cancel our walk before the games. It was raining, so we had to go in a different way. Probably 100 UTSA loyal fans there that early in the morning, got their birds up, cheering for the guys. Those are your true fans. I would imagine back in 2010 when y'all started the program, those are the same people that were here then. They'll be here 100 years from now, if the Lord's willing, because they just love the Roadrunners. And that's what motivates me, our players. You just don't want to let those kind of people down. Front runners are pretty easy to get over, right? But those loyalists in your life, you don't forget them.
And Coach, I just got to ask you this. It was driving me crazy watching the game on Saturday. What is the NCAA rule for mouth guards? Do you actually have to wear one? Because I saw players from Memphis had two hanging off of their face mask, and neither one of them were in their mouth.
You're supposed to have it in, but I guess that's one of those things they didn't notice in the game. But yeah, you're supposed to have your mouthpiece in for safety of children and their beautiful teeth.
There you go.
Amen. And reminding everybody that Jeff Traylor's UTSA Coaches Show is on Wednesday, 7 p.m. at the Chicken and Pickle. It's on Ticket 760, but you can go out there in person Wednesday, 7 p.m., Chicken and Pickle, hang out, see Coach and usually some players involved and Andy Everett and company. UTSA head football coach Jeff Traylor. Coach, fantastic win against a great team. Enjoy the bye. I know you're going to be working during the bye, but hopefully you keep a good thing going against North Texas November 15th in the Alamo Dome on ESPN2. Way to go, Coach.
Thank y'all very much. Appreciate y'all. God bless. Birds up.
God bless and birds up. Keep it going. Roadrunners, UTSA head football coach Jeff Traylor. Joe Pags with another huge Joe Pags show on election eve. Let's find out about it. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning, Chris. That's right. T-minus 1 day. The election is almost here. I've got Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on the program. You're not going to want to miss this interview. He actually tells some states, make sure you do not vote for me. Senator John Cornyn is going to be in the program. Attorney for President Trump, Alina Habba, on the program. From the campaign, Tim Murtaugh. Mayra Flores running for District 34 here in Texas. Abe Hamadeh running in Arizona. Oh, and there could be some special guests on top of that, if you can believe it. We only have 3 hours to do it. All that and then some today on the Joe Pags Show, 5 o'clock, right here. News Radio 1200 WOAI. See you then.
Coming up, a veteran's perspective on this election. First, Charity, what stories are you following?
The Justice Department will be monitoring voting in 27 states on Election Day tomorrow, but Texas won't be one of them. A man suspected of being under the influence died in SAPD custody, and a 400-acre wildfire in Bastrop County prompts evacuations. We'll have more right now, traffic and weather.
Some light rain this morning, some sun this afternoon, highs in the mid to upper 80s. Tomorrow, partly cloudy, partly sunny, highs in the mid 70s. Overnight lows tomorrow in the low 50s. Wednesday, a mixture of clouds and sun, highs in the mid to upper 70s. It is 77 degrees in Alamo Heights, 77 at Fort Sam Houston, and 76 right here in Stone Oak. WOEI News Time, 8:53.
San Antonio's first news. We are your Election Central headquarters. Be with us every step of the way for full team coverage here from 5 to 9 in the morning and all throughout the day. We mentioned Joe Pags as Robert F. Kennedy Jr., among other guests on his show later today. Our thanks to EJ Pacheco. Bang up job the last several days, flying the Millennium Falcon solo, doing all the heavy lifting, keeping us on the air on the YouTube stream. And we've asked you earlier this morning, throughout the show, in fact, on the Talkback feature on the free iHeart Radio app, your feeling going into this election, on this election eve. How do you feel about it? And Charity and Mr. T, we got a very powerful response from a veteran.
Yeah, here it is.
Good morning, WOAI, Whiskey 2 Kilo, an American veteran, reminding everybody that when our men and women fight abroad, we do not fight as Democrats or Republicans. We fight as Americans. Tomorrow will change. The question is, how will you affect that change as an individual? Will you be proactive, reactive, or remain complacent? Remember, the American government works for we, the people, and we're not important once every 4 years. America is important every day.
Wow.
Amen.
And we'll survive this, even if this
Yes,
doesn't
we
go your preferred way. We will persevere. We're the United States of America, the greatest country in the world, and we all just need to take a deep breath and exhale and remain calm.
Yeah, if you get a little anxious tomorrow, just remember what he said. We are Americans first before we're Republicans or Democrats. And if we can remember that and be Americans, this divide might end.
And we are about to witness history.
Yes, we are.
One way or another. It's, by all accounts, it's a tight race. We even heard Mike Opelka saying he's a little nervous, but he says one of the outcomes he envisions is either a Trump landslide, a landslide victory for Donald Trump, or he thinks if it goes tight, he said it could go the other way. Either way, we are all over it. This is the place to be for full team coverage of the 2024 election. Keep it right here throughout the day, throughout the night, and we will see you tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. All right, lots coming at you. You've got Glenn Beck, his perspective on this election eve. Before that, Charity at the top of the hour with all the big stories you need to know about on this Monday, November 4th. But right now, your Sean Hannity Morning Minute, WOAI News Time, 8:56.
Everybody have a great day. We'll see you mañana.
Later.
Bye.